They're all competing for gold, and they will compete to be the champions at the end of the weekend.
It's really exciting. It's a lovely concept. There is a lot going on over this weekend. There has been a lot of action already. It's a lot to wrap your head around, so I say, why don't we take a look at a little summary what the Motorsport Games are all about. Neil, I think it's fair to say the FIA Motorsport Games have something in store for every single motorsport fan out there, right?
Yeah, I can't think of anything that's missing off the list. I mean, right now, there's touring cars happening over there, and there's drifting happening over there, which is why you can see so much tyre smoke. And, you know, there's so much happening. All our esports is happening at the Science Museum in central Valencia. There is so much going on.
It is quite a big operation, so we're at the main circuit, but there's so much else, so many different standpoints. It's definitely not boring, and if you are in Valencia, you should have noticed by now, right?
Absolutely, and of course we will be your guides throughout the whole weekend, and the main highlights, the main events you will watch live on this stream, but there are other ways you can watch all the racing as well. But basically, come here if you can, because it's an amazing sunny weekend.
One thing that people in Valencia might have noticed is the opening ceremony, which was fantastic. You were there, I was there, I was just watching, you were working, but you did a fantastic job. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Thank you very much. It was, yeah, it was spectacular. You know, it's the opening ceremony, and it was a chance for all the nations to shine, really, because very much like the Olympics, that's your one chance to fly the flag for your country, walk onto the stage, and it was beautifully organized, big, extravagant show, and yes, I played a small part in it as well.
An important part, I would say, and if you've missed it, then there's a chance to watch it now. We'll show you the highlights. If you haven't missed it, then it's worth rewatching, I would say. So let's have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Valencia. Welcome to the third edition of the FIA Motorsport Game. This event is the result of a dream shared with the FIA to create a true competition between nations.
The FIA Motorsport Games is more than just a competition. It is a celebration of our shared passion for motorsport. It is a privilege to witness this global gathering of talented athletes from every corner of the world.
We are here to celebrate a very important event, the opening of the FIA Motorsport Games. The countdown for a weekend full of tests with the fastest pilots in the world starts today.
I now declare the 2024 FIA Motorsport Game open.
I am very excited to find out which nation will be taking home the trophy this time around. So Neil, you have to explain a little bit, because there are so many countries competing, the youngest contender being 8 years old, oldest 70. Who takes home the trophy? How does it work?
Well, obviously we don't know. That trophy that you just saw will be handed over at the closing ceremony on Sunday. It goes to the nation that gets the most gold medals. So it's very much like the Olympics. Italy are the current holders of that trophy. They won in Marseille 2 years ago, but Italy also hosted the very first motorsport games back in 2019. So it's very coveted, and it's growing and growing and growing. We've got more categories this year, like I think 10 more categories. There was 16 in Le Castellet in France, and there are now 26 different categories. And more countries are bringing more and more drivers kind of go, we would really quite like to get gold and take home that trophy. So it's become quite meaningful in the overall sort of FIA Motorsport calendar.
Let's talk through the categories a little bit, because they vary a lot, don't they?
Yeah, one of the great things is that it's from very entry level, sort of mini karting, but also off-road equivalent of karts, which is cross karts. But you can start with karting, you go drifting, there's rallying, which is on the sort of closed public roads outside of Valencia. So you've got gravel and tarmac, and also a super special stage here at the circuit. GT cars, which is what we're going to watch very soon. Esports, so sim racing in 2 categories this time. You've got Formula 4. You've got electric street, so electric cars and electric karts doing slalom tests. That's all here at the circuit. Touring cars, who have just finished their session behind us. It's basically a smorgasbord but most countries have entered athletes into at least one, if not all, of those categories.
And the fun thing is that there is countries here that might not be so well known for motorsport either. It's smaller countries that are represented as well, and we've got 17 new nations joining from last time around. So it's a big variety of people, languages, flags that we see, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really good. The representation of all the continents is very, very strong. Yeah, as you say, 17 new countries. And what this is doing is it kind of builds the bridges between the FIA and the individual, what are called ASNs, the FIA member clubs in every country, and more are choosing to send their drivers and their teams here. So you get some teams who maybe have a couple of kids who are competing in karting, or a couple of adults who are competing in rallying, but it just means something for them to come all this way and do it. And then some teams like Spain and Italy that have, and Germany that have, over 20 athletes. I think it's something like 700 individual drivers or athletes competing here this weekend, and all the way to esports as well. You know, even though a lot of the esports athletes will be used to being in their sim rigs at home, they've travelled here to compete together in the hall, which is in central Valencia. So that's even exciting for them to be competing in a big showpiece event, which is very popular, which I think is streaming right now online, or it certainly was earlier today because I was watching it.
And we will be doing the best to cover all of that for you at home. We will jump into the live action, I would say, because it has already started, so the viewers are interested to see what's going on. We will have a little summary about GT, because this is the first sport we'll be looking at. And David Addison, our lead commentator, will take you through that GT.
You can't go far at the FIA Motorsport Games without finding a GT car. And this weekend, we've got the GT event with 2 drivers per car. France won the gold medal 2 years ago at Paul Ricard. The GT and the GT sprint competitions will run to GT3 regulations. That means that it's a globally recognised discipline of car and regulation. There'll be a balance of performance to make sure that the turbos and the normally aspirated engine cars can compete equally. And of course, when you've got things like 3-litre turbo or 5.2-litre normally aspirated with anything from a V8 up to a V10 engine, it all has to be balanced pretty effectively. Then you throw into the mix 2 drivers and the differing pace as well, and pit stops and driver changes. There's going to be an awful lot to look for in the GT category.
GT looks like a fan favourite and a fun one to start with, right?
Yeah, definitely. And if there's one man who knows everything about GTs, it's Adders, and he'll be our lead commentator when we go there very soon. I'm excited about that, because there's, even within GTs, there's several categories, subcategories, sprint, endurance. You know, there's a lot.
And you can see it on different channels. You can see it with us, obviously.
Yeah. So if you're watching us now, thank you. You're very welcome. Please comment below. But wherever you are in the world, you're probably going to get some of these activities screened on actual TV. You will also be able to watch individual streams of individual categories. So, for example, the esports has its own dedicated stream. The cross cars and karting has its own dedicated stream. So, as much as we love your company, the most important thing is you can go and find on the FIA Motorsport Games YouTube channel, you can find your favourite and you can go and watch it all uninterrupted.
It is really great because there is a lot going on. We've got freedom to cruise and chat about everything. You'll be teaching me a lot. I'll be asking all the questions about GT and all the other categories. But like you say, if you're into one specific sport, there's a place out there for you. You are into GT, right?
Yeah,
it's big for you.
Yeah, it is. It's big. I mean, there's the single make class, which is the Ferraris, but then you've got the other main GT, which is, who's this? There we go, right on cue. That's the GTs. Ferrari. Yeah, so you've got Lamborghinis, you've got Aston Martin, you've got Audis. Yeah, so that's the GTs going out. So we'll probably be joining them very soon.
I think we should go there. I think it's enough chat.
Well, I want
to watch it. Shall we have a look? Shall we have a look at GT with our lead commentator team?
Yeah, because they know much more about it than we do. So if we want to work out,
we'll stay here. Yeah.
And let's join Adders.
We'll stay here. You go there.
The 2024 FIA Motorsport Games has had a busy Friday already, what with all the different disciplines, whether they're here at the permanent circuit, Ricardo Tormo outside Valencia, whether they're at the Esport circuit, where karting and cross-car takes place. Even the paddock here has got drifting in it, and in the middle of Valencia City there is esports going on. But the track right now is getting noisy, it's getting busy, because GT cars are out on track, and this is the first of the 2 parts of qualifying. They've had 2 free practice sessions already today. Now it is qualifying. 1 driver per part, and it is the average time of those 2 which will determine the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. The results of that give you the grid for the main race. The results of the main race give you the medals. So it's an important qualifying session, this, and we'll be looking at which driver, indeed which nation, comes out on top. And we've got to start with the home team, haven't you? Because for Spain, Fernando Navarrete and Jorge Cabezas are the drivers. We'll worry about lap times as this session goes on, although it's only 15 minutes, so it's pretty brief. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, and as I say, Joe, the road is getting busy, and in a 15-minute session you haven't got that many laps available to you, really.
No, a maximum of 9 laps, and we're already down under 13 minutes, and we're not using tyre warmers here at this event, so all of these cars heading out on cold tyres, and that's why they're looking a little tentative at the moment. So I expect the first 4 to 5 minutes of the session just be getting the tyres up to temperature, then we push and we'll see what everyone has got.
Now, one thing that we did see earlier on in the day was the dreaded track limit problem and people losing lap times. In fact, in free practice 2, we had people being given stop-go penalties. I think 1 driver, so I was being told by driving standards advisor Peter Dumbrek, transgressed 20 times, at which point that's not an error, that's taking undue liberties. So stop-go penalties will be given out. At the end of an outlap, though, some cars diving straight for the pit lane. Why is that?
So I think that's because they are starting on cold tyres. They will want to come in and bleed some of the pressure out of those tyres. There's a minimum pressure, 1.4 bar, set by Pirelli for safety standards, so they can't be below that. But if they keep pushing, they'll go way over target, probably over 2 bar. So what they'll do now on the outlap, they've probably got them from 1.4 to 1.55. They can bleed 0.15 out, and their target temperature will be much happier. So a bit of a split strategy already that we're seeing across the field.
So for the home team, for Team Spain, Fernando Navarrete you're looking at in the Audi R8 LMS, one of the turnkey GT3 cars. Now, there are a number of drivers within the GT disciplines this weekend in their regular car, with their regular team. There are others that are hiring a car, getting a team to run it, so there's a learning curve going on there as well. Here, for example, Chris Froggatt and James Cottingham for Team United Kingdom. It's the car that Chris Froggatt regularly races, but James Cottingham has never raced a GT3 Ferrari before. Even though the family business, DK Engineering, prepares Ferraris, in modern GT terms, this is a first. Yeah,
first time in a 296. By the way, don't be alarmed with the smoke in the background there. That is drifting from our drift track, and it is just the guys having fun behind the pit lane, so it's going to catch our eye a bit. But yeah, correct, James Cottingham never driven a 296 GT3 until this morning. His initial impressions were pure love, so I think he is on for a good weekend. Chris Froggatt as well, going well. But yeah, the track limits is going to be a big problem that you said about earlier. Just the nature of the circuit, so wide, so open, so inviting as a driver to give them an excuse. Why are they going wide? They want to go fast. The faster you go, the wider you go, and eventually the track limit crops up.
Just going back to that point about how much Chris Froggatt and James Cottingham go well, so well did they go down the pit lane even that both of them copped speeding fines this morning, but hopefully they'll be able to channel that in their respective sessions and get the car to combined pole position for the qualifying race. Now, right now, the fastest time that we've had out of anybody is coming from number 71, which is the Lithuanian entry, currently with Arūnas Gečiauskas at the wheel of it. He's done a 1:43.808, 4 seconds quicker than anybody else, but that's a bit of a phony 4 seconds because others are still cycling into the mix. Up towards the end of the lap now comes 75, that's for Team China. And over the line goes Yaki Zhang, and is now the fastest, but 8 seconds up the road as people generally now cycle towards a proper push lap.
Yeah, really shows you a little compromise as well there, China. I think that was the German entry, Mercedes, just probably on his outlap after bleeding the pressures. But yeah, I expect pole to either be a high 32 or a low 33. So Team China there still sort of, I think, 1.5 seconds off what will be pole position as their tyres now up to temperature.
We haven't yet got a lap time out of Germany nor France, the defending gold medal holder, nor the United Kingdom, and the other one that we want a lap time from is the Ukraine entry, which has got Konstantin Gutsul at the wheel of it right now. So for the moment it is China ahead of Spain, and then Lithuania third in the times, and we've just got 9 minutes and counting of Q1 to go. And you can see the nature of the Valencia circuit there with all the different cut-throughs. The track busy because there's going to be rally stages on it at the end of today and tomorrow and Sunday. So the circuit in all its configurations being kept very busy indeed. Now, number 8 you're looking at is the Malaysian entry, Selim Rafiq at the wheel. Coming up towards the line, he's been racing in Lamborghinis this year, but in Super Trofeo Asia, not in a GT3 car. So it's a bit of a step up.
Yeah, big difference. The drone shot showing us a great shot of the Malaysian flag as well on the roof of that Lamborghini. But yeah, the Trofeo Charge GT3 is a big difference. So it's going to be a steep asking, especially on a track like this where you're really using the wider front tyre and able to roll the speed into these tightening corners. There's a lot at Valencia. So yeah, it's going to be a steep learning curve over the weekend for the Malaysian car there.
Right, Spain over the line, and Fernando Navarrete was only 0.4 of a second back. Now he's quickest, 1:33.9, 9/10 up the road, and takes a really wide approach to turn 1. That's exactly the part of the circuit where the race director gets a little bit edgy, not only with the amount of runoff you take on the way in, but on the way out of the corner as well. And we've had an awful lot of people losing lap times through transgressing at turn 1 over the course of the day thus far, and there walloping the curb and running out wide from what's that, turns 8 and 9 is Navarrete, but he got away with that.
Yeah, it's quite a common mistake there, I think, as the apex curb lulls you in. There's a large sausage curb that then throws you up. We have seen quite a lot of cars go into the barrier on exit there, so the Spain car doing well to hold onto it. But yeah, not only would that be a track limit, but that is slower to do. But going back to your turn 1 point, it's quite cool to be able to do track limits twice in one corner on entry and exit. So and just remember, one track limit over the whole lap, the 14 corners, 4 kilometers here at Valencia, loses the whole lap time in qualifying. And we're seeing a few cars that still haven't set a time. France was still in the pits. They're on their out lap now. We said how short this session is, under 7 minutes remaining, and still no laps on the board for that car.
And they're still pressing on Team Spain. So Fernando Navarrete up the curb again, coming through turn 12. And now makes this climb through turn 13. The road drops away towards the end of the lap out of turn 14, which is another part of the racetrack where people have been going wide and being pinged for track limit offences. Up towards the timing line, this long pit straight. Navarrete breaks the beam and goes quicker still, 1:33.581. So now over a second to the good. But I still think when you factor in Hubert Haupt and Eric Debard and James Cottingham, it's going to get interesting. Cottingham's first flying lap is a 1:34.6 to put him 4th fastest, as you look there at number 71, which is then up to 2nd fastest now. The Lithuanian entry, Arūnas Gečauskas at the wheel of it.
Yeah, and we've seen the British car there, still purple, Sector 1 from Team Spain. So they are the fastest overall in Sector 1. Spain had purple Sector 3 as well to take the pole position lap at the moment provisionally, as we look at the United Kingdom car there coming through. Cottingham, first time in it, like we've said, still be finding his feet. They're just the differences of all of these GT3 cars just take a while. I think he's actually backed out of this lap. He was worried about catching the Malaysian Lamborghini. He's decided, actually, I'm going to give up that purple sector and just find myself a bit of space. But is he going to hold up Team Japan? I think that is, and another Ferrari catching him through turns 13. He's got to back up even more, otherwise his Malaysian problem is now a Japanese problem.
Exactly so. While all that's been going on, James Cottingham has lost an earlier lap time, so he's now got nothing on the board. So this next lap, he's going to have to be really good because he's got nothing to rely on. Eric Debard and James Cottingham, France and the UK, the ones that need a lap time. Cottingham's lap has just put him 10th, and Eric Debard has not yet done a lap time. He's not had anything taken off him. It's just that he hasn't done a lap, as far as I can work out. So James Cottingham is now 10th, but this lap, and you're riding with him, has got to be good with less than 5 minutes to go.
So let's ride through with Team UK. Coming into turn 4, second gear. You can see on the dashboard there, up to 3rd, back down to 2nd. No, he's leaving it in 2nd, so not carrying the speed he was earlier. Coming out of here, you can see how tight and twisty and just how much these exit curbs especially want to take you out there and give you a track limit penalty. You cannot cross the white line with all 4 tyres. That's the rule. Coming through the flat-out kink, turn number 7. Going to have a hard brake here. 4th gear, you see the rear of the car snap, and that's why we've gone in a little bit deep at turn 8. I think he just touched the curb on entry. That just loses us a bit of rear stability. Then the car snaps out on the brakes again here. Turn 11, late apex. It looked like he was going in too deep. That is the line. You want to get the exit speed on this short straight into 12. Careful of the apex curb. This is the large sausage curb we saw Team Spain hit and go into the gravel. Flat out through 13 and down the hill. Super hard to get your braking point here because it is downhill and never straight. The car doesn't want to stop as efficiently as it would on a nice straight flat bit of tarmac. But that looked like a fairly decent lap from Cottingham. Let's see where he breaks the beam. I've also seen Team Spain have lost their fastest lap, so their provisional pole position has gone. That 33.5 that they did is actually, they've gone all the way down where they now T6. So track limits are a hot issue here.
James Cottingham 2nd, and at the end of this lap he's going to encounter traffic, so James Cottingham getting himself up to the pointy end. There's more to come from Team Germany. Hubert Haupt, here he is, up towards the line, and Patron goes quickest then, so Mercedes number 4 for Team Germany, 1:33.1. News buzzing around the paddock that for next season the Haupt Racing team is going to be running Ford Mustangs, and a full GT World Challenge Europe programme is on the cards, and that's going to be something to savour. Hubert Haupt, who these days is a very successful, wealthy real estate dealer, but go back to the early 1990s, factory Audi driver, raced in single-seaters in America, and still a very, very quick racing driver, even if he drives a desk more than a car these days. But it's his team, and he does as much racing as he can, and this is the dark horse, I reckon. Team Switzerland, it is Dexter Müller, and Yannick Mettler as the two drivers. Dexter Müller is behind the wheel at the moment, and it's an interesting livery the car has got, but it works well. Dexter Müller, very experienced in terms of GT racing, both in GT classes and in the Le Mans Cup against prototypes. Hubert Haupt is going quicker still, but Müller 9th is going to be an improver as well.
Yeah, the good thing with Müller and Mettler is they've been teammates for the past 3 seasons as well, so they know each other very well. And with the SPS team that run a very fast Mercedes, so I think they're probably the overall package that you'd look to for race wins, just purely on how much they've done together. A lot of nations obviously bringing drivers together for the first time, so always hard as a driver to just get on with a new teammate, agree on the car setup, even the run plan. There can be some friction, which is always fun with your teammate. You're always trying to be polite, but sometimes that goes out the window when you're a selfish racing driver. Is how on a lap, purple sector 1, slightly slower in 2, but not by much. Chance to improve there, and he does into the 32s. That's where I thought Paul would be.
And there's his co-driver, Finn Wiebelhaus, looking on, the 18-year-old German, who is another very quick driver. So Germany, I think we've got a decent chance in this. For the home team, for Team Spain, down to 8th now is Navarrete, so he comes out of turn 14. He'll get one more lap out of this before the flag, but he will take the flag at the end of the next lap. And he's up to 2nd. Good effort then by Fernando Navarrete, 1:33.46, and then he's got the lap time taken off him. So cancellation of lap time, track limit offences. So it's like the snakes and ladders game, isn't it? You go up, you go down.
Yeah, as we see the Malaysian car parking up for the session, they're not going to get back out, so they're currently in 12th position, so not sure if a problem there. They're deciding to save the tyres a little bit. There's only 4 sets of tyres for the whole weekend for this race, so the teams are sort of split on strategy. Some teams talking about only using 1 set of tyres for the whole of qualifying, so it'll be interesting to see if they take those tyres off and put a fresh set of Pirellis on for the second driver.
And for Malaysia, it'll be Weron Tan who will be the second driver. Hubert Haupt, in the meantime, is still going for it. He's done another absolute best in the first sector, a little bit down in the second, but he's still pushing on, and that's the car that is second in the times as well for Lithuania. So Gečauskas up through turn 13, also going for it, and should be an improver. The margin is 0.8 of a second betwixt the two. So Hubert Haupt is going to escape and get one more lap out of it. He's done a 1:32.733. He's gone quicker again. And Gečauskas takes the checkered flag, and he does a 33.399. So he's brought the gap down by 0.2.
Yeah, what a session from Hubert Haupt there. 0.6 clear is really, really strong. And let's remember, this is an average combined qualifying. So Q2, these times will get added together, and that gives us our grid for tomorrow's qualifying race. So that big gap has really handed Germany a huge advantage in that sense.
And 7th fast, this is where you find Lithuania. So coming up to take the flag, Konstantin Gutsul. As 2 years ago, if you think back to Paul Ricard, when we were having the motorsport games in Marseille, there was a huge amount of support for Team Ukraine. No doubt it will be the same again this weekend, and it's great to have them here, great to see the competitiveness. And it's a lap abort it, as into the pit lane comes Gutsul. That just buys them a little bit more time, doesn't it, to do that driver change. The clock obviously stops at the end of Q1. There is a break, but you'd like as much time as possible to do anything to the car, impart data to driver, and get the incoming driver just comfortable in the car, I guess.
Yeah, and even a chance to make a couple of quick setup changes, roll bars, damper clicks, even ride height. So, yeah, if you can give it to the team, then you might as well, as we see both Japan and China box as well. And you can see how late the pit speed starts. It's still coming here. So the drivers are practicing for tomorrow's race, where we do have a pit stop. Obviously, the quicker you come in, the less time lost is a positive.
Down the pit lane, past the podium. And then they'll return to their teams. The pit garage is, of course, being used by the GT teams and by Formula 4, the touring cars and the one-mate GT teams in the paddock. And obviously they will camp in the pit road. There is James Cottingham. So in the end, 4th. He's still on a lap, but he is not looking quick. So I think this is purely an in-lap, but he has stayed out to the checkered flag. But he had to, given that so many lap times were being taken off him.
Yeah, and they did the strategy, didn't they, where they did an out lap, came in, bled pressures, and then went out again. So they only had 10 minutes of the 15-minute session to set a lap time. And when you're losing 90 seconds every time you do a track limit, you can see suddenly you didn't optimise your performance. But talking about optimised performance, that is exactly what Team Germany did in that session.
And just to make the point that the regulations for the GT discipline allow you to have a bronze and a silver, or if you want 2 bronzes, but definitely not 2 silvers. So ideally, it's a sort of pro-am format, but silver and bronze, the maximum driver grading you can have.
Yeah, and every team using that, apart from Japan, who have got 2 bronzes. So it'll be interesting to see in Q2 if Wakasaki can be somewhere in the mix of the silvers. He's almost got no fear there. He's the only bronze. So everyone would expect him to be towards the rear because that is what his grading alludes to. But he'll may have a nice attitude where he's got nothing to lose.
New boots for Team France, and it will now be Paul Everard to get on board. The driver that we're about to talk about will be the start driver for the qualifying race. So you qualify in Q2, you start race 1, and then it's the other driver, obviously, that will start the main race, and it's the main race where we have the medals. So, well done, Team Germany, for provisional pole position, but we need to see what happens in Q2 to determine a proper order for that grid. Q1 headed by Team Germany, Hubert Haupt the driver, Lithuania second, China third, fourth for the United Kingdom, James Cottingham from Team France's Eric Debard, and Konstantin Gutsul for Ukraine. Japan seventh, ahead of Switzerland's Dexter Müller. Home team Spain, 9th from Qatar, Chinese Taipei and Malaysia, rounding out the 12. Now, though, the driver on the right of that graphic will take over and you'll add his time to the driver that's just been out on track and get the average for the grid for the qualifying race for GT. So a busy pit lane, teams getting ready for Q2. Q1 for the GT discipline at the 2024 FIA Motorsport Games began with Team Spain looking rapid as Fernando Navarrete was out on track and was quick early on, but then others started to get into their cycle and depose him, and he also lost laps through track limit offences as well, and that inevitably was a big factor within the session. Gold medalist at the 22 FIA Motorsport Games, Team France looking rapid, and in the end it was fifth for Eric Debard behind Team UK. Fourth, James Cottingham. It was Yaki Zhang who was third for Team China. And then with Lithuania second, all the plaudits went the way in the end of Team Germany because Hubert Haupt was the fastest and he just got quicker and quicker as the session went on. In the Mercedes AMG GT3, Team Germany's Hubert Haupt fastest in Q1. So drivers getting themselves ready for Q2. 15 minutes on the clock once more. One or two surprises maybe. Switzerland I thought could have been a bit quicker in that opening session, but it's where they are on the grid. It's what the average is going to be that will determine. One or two cars yet to be ready. Look, wheels not yet on Team China, but you don't necessarily have to be out right at the very start. And even though it's a smaller grid, it's again important to get some clear track space. But Team Germany's Hubert Haupt has done a cracking job. And Antonio Rankin is in the pits with the fastest man from Q1.
Hubert, a brilliant lap to represent Team Germany.
Yeah, it's fantastic. In the moment we are P1. I hope it stays like that. Proud to race for Germany here in Valencia. Beautiful weather, cars running, so everything's good.
Now, you've got plenty of time, obviously, to enjoy it out there and really get a feel for the car. Do you think that you'll be able to continue this across the weekend?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the car is good. I think the setup is really good and we are quick. So if we don't do any stupid mistakes, we should be on the podium.
Of course, this is all in good spirits and it's a lot of fun to see you guys out there. What does it feel like to represent Team Germany?
Yeah, it's really something different. I mean, usually you always race for yourself, for your team, with a teammate. But to race for Germany is a special honor. It's something special.
Especially a team with so much history in motorsports and as a country, a real center of the world for that kind of thing. Do you feel that that carries with you today?
You always have a certain push. I mean, there's so many amazing race drivers coming from Germany. There's so many titles won from Germany drivers. So yeah, it's an honor. But on the other side, also it gives you some more adrenaline not to do anything stupid.
Well, you've been doing great so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So happy Hubert Haupt, fastest thus far, and as we've been making the point during that first part of the qualifying period, a huge amount of experience. He had quite a few years off from racing to go and build up businesses after his, if you like, professional career stopped. But as an AM plus, he's not really an AM, it's unfair to call him that, but he's a very, very accomplished, experienced and quick driver, and he makes a valid point about representing his country. Yeah, okay, this might not be part of the championship, but that's not to say that people aren't taking this seriously. They're all here to win.
Yeah, and you're right, he's probably one of the shiniest bronze drivers we have. These driver grading, so important to keep GT racing fair. The FIA deciding each year on what grading, but he is definitely at the top of his game, and hence why he was on pole position by 6/10. But yeah, to represent your country, to have that sort of patriotism, to really bring it home, must add more pressure than performance would be my only sight on that.
Now, Finn Wiebelhaus, who will take over, has been racing for the Haupt team in the ADAC GT Masters this year, and he is going to be the incoming driver. So it's, without being ageist about it, the sort of old master in Hubert Haupt, the young gun in Finn Wiebelhaus, and he will drive for Team Germany in the single driver GT Sprint on Sunday. We'll worry about that in a couple of days' time, but that's another of the disciplines at the FIA Motorsport Games this year. Wiebelhaus has been a very rapid driver all season. He's been racing in the GT Winter Series as well, but it's going to be fascinating to see how he shapes up against one or two other drivers with huge amounts of experience, like Yannick Mettler, Paul Everard and Chris Froggatt.
Yeah, and I think the line in the sand that Haupt was put there as a 32.9 benchmark lap time. I don't think there's going to be more than a second between the silver driver and the bronze driver in that Team Germany car. Such a good job Hubert Haupt did there.
Now, we're almost ready for Q2. Before we do that, though, let's hear from Fernando Navarrete, because he is representing Team Spain. He's been out on track and he's now with Antonia.
Fernando, first of all, a home race today, a really lovely weekend for you, and you do seem to have good pace.
Yeah, I think I do a good lap, but another time the track limits is horrible for me. I have not the total control to the car because it's my first time with Audi, and we will see in the race. I expect to do better.
It seems to be a really nice occasion to try a new car and try new machinery. How have you found the R8 so far?
Well, it's new for me. No, I don't make tests. I don't make tests nothing. But it's an incredible opportunity for me to be in Spain, my country, my home, and for sure I try to push hard in the race.
Best of luck. Thank you. Thank you.
Another interesting point, isn't it, that he's not had a chance to test the car. He's not an experienced GT racer, whereas others, we've made the point, Joe, are in their regular mount. So here you've got this, it's going to be a bigger battle, isn't it, to overcome those that are regulars in a GT3 car in that particular model, and here you are coming in fresh.
Yeah, Fernando there qualified 9th, so he won't be happy, but his lap that he lost would have put him 3rd.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he's positive in that conversation with Antonio, and I think that's going to be interesting in the race. He's going to be a lot further back, and he's going to want to go forward, which naturally will breed some action. You can see all the cars have left quite close together. They'll be trying to find their space. Should kind of space out here where you get 6 to 7 seconds gap in front of you, but that never works out because you want the biggest gap, so you force the car in front fast on this out lap, then back off as late as you dare to generate that gap. As we see Chris Froggatt in the Ferrari, be interested to see what tyres he put on. I would say they're new tyres. Why? Because he's weaving, so I'd say they're cold. They're not the tyres he inherited for James Cottingham, which would be hot. What are Japan going to do? Just trying to spot those tyres. Already stickers on there. Look like a used tyre to me. A little bit of pickup on the front left tyre, trying to save a new set for the race potentially. So yeah, a lot of strategies at play here at the moment.
And it is going to be for Q2 Shigekatsu Wagisaka at the wheel of Team Japan's Ferrari. That car that is operated out of the AF Corsa stable, ready to go. Lots of Ferraris here this weekend with the One Make GT discipline being for Ferrari Challenge cars as well. So, clock ticks on down, 13 minutes we have still to run as there the Audis get themselves together. Number 19 now is Jorge Cabezas Catalan at the wheel, and Cabezas will make the run up towards turn 2 at the top of the circuit. But the two Audis of it's Team China ahead, then Team Spain behind, trying to make sure they've got clear track space. It's good for China at the minute. This is the run now up the hill, heading towards turn 6. And tyres getting up to temperature all the time.
You can actually see the balance of this Team China car compared to the Team United Kingdom car we went on board with. Looks a little bit more balanced, less snappy on the rear. They're able just to get the car in. As I say, there's a big snap of oversteer as he gets on the throttle. So Team Spain there, Audi, just on the brakes there, just trying to see the dynamics of these cars, the strengths and weaknesses, all worked out equally with the balance of performance, trying to make these cars do exactly the same lap time, but they will have different strengths and weaknesses a little bit at each point. So yeah, maybe the Audi not riding the curbs quite as well as that Ferrari, but does seem a little bit more stable, especially on corner entry.
So right now, Jorge Cabezas is going to offer up the first target time. It'll be the quick S, but it's not necessarily going to stay as others get faster. Tyres get up to temperature, and Fernando Navarrete's crash helmet attests. He's now going to be standing watching, and Cabezas goes through. That Audi being run by the Attempto team. In the background, you could see Arkin Arca, the man behind the Attempto racing squad. So familiar teams, even if it's for them unfamiliar drivers, but there's a squad that knows all about running a GT3 Audi.
Yeah, they've won races across the globe, haven't they? So yeah, it's sometimes interesting to see which team chooses which country and pairs up that way, because they're the best GT teams in the world here running cars for many different nations, as well as we see Chinese Taipei in that Mercedes makes such a nice grumble, that V8 pulling through the gears, a little bit wide off the apex curb at T3 there. You can really launch the car across the inside and stay legal on track limits, which is quite a novel idea for some of these drivers in this session at the moment. Kicking up a bit of dust from the apex at turn 5. Got to get back over, try and get it straight as you can for the brake zone into T6. Then this long back straight. I think this will be a flashpoint in the race for overtaking. Not through this kink here at 7, but the brake zone now into 8. Cars trying to stay wide to open it up, which will naturally leave the door open. I think it's going to be a bit of side-to-side contact there, and then it's dependent on how fair they are of who keeps the position after turn 8.
And up to the top of the times for Team Malaysia has gone Weiron Tan, the former GT4 Super Cup Asia champion. Now Kang Ling for Team China goes fastest in his Audi, one-time European Formula 3 championship racer. And for Lithuania across the line now goes Jonas Karklis, and he will go quickest, 1:33.739, a 10th up the road. This at the moment has the makings of being the more competitive part of the entry, doesn't it, with these drivers trading tenths rather than full seconds. Others have yet to go. For the Ukraine, it is Ivan Pelkin at the wheel. That car run by Land Motorsport, Wolfgang Land's squad. It's now run by his son Christian, although Wolfgang is here himself, and he was hugely successful as a racer in Porsches, but it's with Audis that he's won titles, won the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and Ivan Pelkin for Team Ukraine goes now down pit lane and will blend onto the circuit the other side of turn 1.
Yeah, did a really good job actually to back out of that and not impede the Japan car, which was on a lap through turn 1 already. As we look at the Team China Audi there coming through the curbs, like we said about the Spain car, just sometimes coming off the curb looking a little unsettled, and that as a driver just means that you're having to catch the car every time you come off a curb. So you're kind of questioning, weighing up, is it worth hitting that curb if it's given me a moment after it? But normally you do, just because it takes so much angle out of the corner, you're ultimately quicker, and that is your decision made for you. Coming out the last corner carefully, the track limits looked good to me, kept a wheel on the white line. What we're going to get lap time wise, no one has actually beaten Hubert Haub's lap time from Q1 yet, and Team China crossing the line just about do it by a couple of tenths, 32.7, fastest in Q2.
Yeah, Haupt did his right towards the end. We've still got 8 minutes of this to go, so in theory those times can come down even further. So it is Kang Ling then from now. In fact, he loses that quickest time because up to the top goes Jonas Karklis. interestingly, we've got far fewer track limit warnings and cancellations of laps in Q2 than we had in Q1. Big lose from Lithuania there, getting up the curb. That was Karklis, but he survived it. And has he had a lap time taken off him? He was, I thought, the quickest, but it's gone back to being Kang Ling once more. Meanwhile, it is China, Lithuania, Spain, the top three, Japan fourth, Team Malaysia fifth, and then Chinese Taipei rounding out the top six. But sort of aping what we saw in Q1, still plenty of nations that have yet to do a first flying lap.
Yeah, I think just because the Q2 should be quicker, the more experienced drivers, I think they've all done the strategy of coming in to beat the pressures and then looking to find a gap. So everyone in the next 3 minutes should set a representative lap time, but because they're more experienced, they don't need the full 15 minutes like some of those bronze graded drivers to set their lap time. But it does feel a little bit racy with 7 minutes remaining that we still haven't had any lap times from 4 cars.
But they will count as Weiron Tan heads up towards the timing line now for Team Malaysia and goes through and stays 8th, even though the lap time was a little bit better. And sorry, now he's 4th in the times as he goes through. So Weiron Tan up to 4th in this part of the qualifying period. Here is Team Spain. So Cabezas goes through and is now 3rd on aggregate, as Jonas Karklis is at the top on aggregate. Yeah, so he's 2nd in Q2, but fastest on aggregate.
Yeah, and this is where you hoped your Q1 driver did a good enough job to give you a chance of being at the sharp end. First couple of rows here at Valencia will be really nice. Overtaking, sometimes a little bit difficult. So if you can be in those first 4 positions, you've got a chance at the start to get a good run and maybe launch a bit of a lunge into 2 to lift that car a little bit higher, a little bit wide. Out of there, you could probably say that's going to be a track limit done, and that could be the lap done. And the problem is these tyres do go off. They're at their best lap probably 3 or 4 when there isn't a tyre oven, and if you're then going beyond it, you are then just losing time. Team Germany struggling with the rear a little bit more. Now the car is working hard.
And now we'll see what Finn Wiemelhaus can do for Team Germany then, which is currently 7th on aggregate on the average, and now goes to the top on the average as well. So Finn Wiemelhaus on that lap did a 1:32.106. That puts Team Germany at the top for the qualifying race. Chris Froggatt then up to 2nd. Team United Kingdom goes 2nd on aggregate, and he's fastest in Q2 is Chris Froggatt, 1:32.004. But it's Team Germany with a combined average that is going to be provisionally pole.
Yeah, I just wonder if Wiemelhaus actually lost that lap that we were talking about to the track limit. We saw him run wide out of turn number 11. So looking happy in Chinese Taipei garage there. We're seeing so many cancellations of track limits, aren't we? It's hard to
but not Germany, no.
No, I just wonder why we've not seen them go quicker. Was that not their best lap they lost?
I think what we have been seeing is the one timing tower is showing you the session and the other is showing you the aggregate. So the timing tower is Q2, but what you've got at the bottom is for the average. So Wiemelhaus did get the car to the top, but at the moment Team United Kingdom have gone quickest on the both session and I think the average, or certainly the session. I think still on the combined it is Team Germany that is top, because remember James Cottingham was a bit further down than Hubert Haupt, and therefore on the average it's good for Germany at the moment. It'll all unravel after the remaining 4 minutes. And remember, this is a sort of means to an end. It gives you the grid for the qualifying race. That gives you the grid for the main race. So it's going to be an interesting race tomorrow, that's for sure. But that in itself doesn't get you a medal.
Yeah, we see Wiemelhaus actually improved to a 31.9, so he's now a 2nd quicker than his teammate Hubert Haupt, like we thought he would be. But he only obviously needs to be within 6/10 of any car to be combined pole. Such was Haupt's job, as we see Team France running wide. I feel like I'm dobbing everyone in for track limits, but it is in front of us, and obviously all the stewards here able to see it, and then we really cement our case for a track limits on this lap coming out of turn number 6.
So this is Paul Everard, who we know is very rapid indeed from his time spent in the GT World Challenge Europe, and Paul Everard then comes now down to the completion of a lap. He had done a personal best early on. There's nothing yet on the timing screen to say that this lap's going to be taken off him, but even if it's not, it's a little bit scrappy, and you would wonder whether it's going to be a significant improvement.
Yeah, even from the body language of the car, looks like he's backed out. Yes, look at Sector 2, he's 2.8 seconds off, so it's quite wisely gone, well, I'm not going to be given this lap, so I might as well save the tyres and then probably find a bit more space as well, because you are backing out of it, and then launch an attack out of the last corner here at 14. Even go for a later apex just to give you a better drive out the corner, so when you hit the finish line and then you start your lap, you're doing a higher speed all the way into turn 1.
So Paul Everard goes through, and there, looking rapid, number 54, this is Team Switzerland, Yannick Mettler, coming up towards the timing line now. Mettler has done a personal best, an absolute best, and as he comes up towards the timing line, let's see, still stays 7th on aggregate, but goes 3rd in Q2.
Yeah, he was actually getting a tow from the other Mercedes of Wiebelhaus in front, and his lap time was less than a tenth of a second behind. We're seeing some pretty tight gaps here. The first 3 all covered by 500. So Wiebelhaus and Froggatt from Mettler all within half a tenth. Yeah. Shows you how close it's going to be and how good the race is going to be tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and Paul Everard is only another tenth back on that, so he is looking rapid too. Kang Ling is 5th, and he's adapted. There is Team China in the pit lane, but Kang Ling perhaps didn't really sparkle as a single-seater driver, but in recent years he's developed into a very good GT driver in Asia, and was rapid around the streets of Macau last year, for example. 6th behind him, it is Ivan Peklin from Team Ukraine. So Peklin is next, and the session has got just about a lap time and change remaining. So 1 or 2 can squeeze another lap out of it if the tyres are willing.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's what we're seeing, people pitting now. Then again, they're looking at saving these tyres for the race. Every lap you take off is 4 kilometres less on the tyre. That might be the difference if you're trying to overtake someone in the race tomorrow. Still looks like Wiebelhaus is pushing hard. This lap at the moment is good enough to potentially improve. It's all about sector 3 here. When you add up the first 2 sectors, getting a bit of a slipstream off Qatar in front in the Porsche as he crosses the line. Can he beat a 31.9? Is it going to be close? Just about. Look at that for consistency. Purple sector 3, he just about improves his time.
And here comes Mettler over the line. Disappointing though that, because it started off nicely, but slower in sectors 2 and 3. So Team Switzerland are 3rd in this part of qualifying, and a big lose for Ivan Peklin, rattling it over the curb, coming through turn 12 for Team Ukraine, but he survived the moment.
Yeah, huge snap of oversteer. Again, saying about the Audi not looking happy off the curb. I think Peckling then did a mega job to catch that. That would have been a full 180 degrees of opposite lock on the steering wheel. So good save from Team Ukraine there. Chinese Taipei, pushing on into turn 12. We talk about characteristics of cars. The Mercedes curb riding attributes are probably the best. So if you see that car smashing the curbs around this lap, don't be surprised, because the car takes it so well.
Chinese Taipei then coming up towards the end of the lap, and for the nation it is Yang Lao at the wheel. Checkered flag will greet him, and Yang Lao, Peter Yang, goes through 11th on aggregate, and we've just had an improvement as well from Team France, I think, as Paul Everard went by. Now, we haven't seen much of Porsche in the session, but for Team Qatar, Ghanim Salah Al Mahid is at the wheel of the Qatari entry. Looks great in that colour scheme.
Yeah, beautiful, and the sound of it as well. The flat 6 coming out of turn 14, they're screaming all the way down. Going to break the beam for one final time in this session. Can he improve? Not quite, but it was close to his best. An average of a 1:35.0 is going to see them line up 10th tomorrow in our qualifying race.
So Al-Mahid goes through 11th in this part of the session, 10th on aggregate. So Finn Wiebelhaus fastest in Q2, but it's the combined average we need to be looking at that will determine the grid. But the good thing about that session, we've seen it's going to be competitive. Drivers have had yet more track time, and if they're new to the car and the circuit, which of course is the other leveler in all of this, they've done a bit more learning, and people have got through without any dramas and any damage, which is good to see.
Yeah, but I'm also interested to see how lively the cars are, so I think it's going to breed good racing, because the drivers aren't having it easy, relatively low grip out there, some of the drivers complaining about. So whenever that's like that, it means it's harder for the drivers, which gives us more action. You see the cars being waved back into the paddock, technically running like reverse garages here. The cars are actually facing out the back of the garages to allow better fan access to be able to see all these beautiful cars and hard-working teams.
Yeah, it's something that we trialled in the very first FIA Motorsport Games at Vallelunga, and other championships have used that for the fans in domestic events. But the paddock here particularly tomorrow and Sunday when people aren't at work, is going to be very, very busy indeed, given that there's a lot to see. There is the ASN village, there's the merchandise area, and the drifting has its own track within the paddock. There's enough space to give the drifters plenty of room. And in turn, they respond with plenty of smoke, and that's been the busiest area today. There's also the service park for the rally competition. That comes to the track later on this evening. It's out on the stages around Valencia at the moment, but it is all a very, very busy paddock indeed around the circuit Ricardo Tormo. So some of the cars, I mean, Joe's touched on, they're going to their garages. Some have to go to scrutineering as well, and their garage will be accommodating the cars very shortly. Others still making their way into the pit lane. And as far as the GT discipline is concerned, they will have the qualifying race tomorrow. We'll be on air for that at 10:50 local time, and it's a 60-minute race with the mandatory pit stop between 25 and 35 minutes, and that determines the grid for the main race, which will be later on in the day, around about 4:30. So the GT teams have both races tomorrow, and some of the cars are going to be used again on Sunday in the GT sprint competition, where, for example, Finn Wiebelhaus will represent Team Germany once more. So drivers down the pit lane at the end of Q2 for the GT cars. So this is how we look at the end of Q2. This is the session lap times, with Germany the fastest from the United Kingdom, and then Team Lithuania third. It's China fourth ahead of Team Ukraine, France sixth, then Team Switzerland ahead of Team Japan, Team Spain, Qatar 10th on the combined average, Chinese Taipei 11th, and it's Malaysia then at the foot of the times. But Hubert Haupt, along with Finn Wiebelhaus, doing the times for Team Germany, and the aggregate giving you 0.6 of a second as the margin between Team Germany and Team United Kingdom. But it's going to be a really interesting first race, that is for sure. And it will be Wiebelhaus, Froggatt, Karklist, Ling, Petlin, that second listed driver who will be the start driver. So those are the guys that are going to go toe-to-toe over the first 25 minutes or so of the race. So Team Germany takes the provisional pole position then, after, in fairness, both drivers topped their respective parts of the session. And the FIA Motorsport Games flags up and down the pit lane, up and down the paddock, where drivers will be returning to their teams and making sure that the cars are good for tomorrow, having a look at the data, trying to find in some cases where they can find more time if they're new to the car, as you've been hearing from the likes of Fernando Navarrete, new to the circuit as well. For many, there's an awful lot to learn, whereas some do have the experience of the car, the track, the team they're working with. And GT, along with GT Sprint, along with the one make, single make GT concept, joining Formula 4 and touring cars this weekend as the circuit race element, but a very busy FIA Motorsport Games this year with so many different disciplines. Q2 for GT got underway with 15 minutes ahead of the teams, and it was Kang Ling for Team China who was looking rapid early on. But as others started to get through their run program, the time started to come down, and it wasn't long before Lithuania and then ultimately Team United Kingdom and Team Germany were able to put themselves up at the pointy end of the order. Paul Evrard for Team France had a lap spoilt by one or two moments of running wide. Yannick Mettler, in the meantime, for Team Switzerland, was still pressing on as well and getting himself up to third in Q2. Second, though, will be Team United Kingdom. Chris Froggatt doing the driving duties, but following the good effort of Hubert Haupt in Q1, his co-driver Finn Wiebelhaus topped the times in Q2 and gave provisional pole position in the GT discipline to Team Germany. So looking down to the sort of paperclip style of the circuit Ricardo Tormo, named after the very successful late motorcycle racer. But with Finn Wiebelhaus taking the top time in Q2, there's an awful lot to celebrate for Team Germany, and Antonio Rankin is with them.
That was absolutely fantastic, guys. What a brilliant job you both did.
Fantastic. P1, that's the best start for the race, and we are racing for Germany. That's great.
Yeah, Hubert did an amazing job in quali 1, putting it on pole, and I just copy-pasted, and yeah, it was a good job.
Well done, thank you.
Germany then the fastest in the GT discipline, and a great job done. It's an experienced team. They're drivers who know the car as well, but even so, they had to deliver, and they delivered in style. Hubert Haupt and Finn Wiebelhaus then for Team Germany take pole position for the GT discipline. They will have their 2 races on Saturday here at the FIA Motorsport Games, with the qualifying race and the main race on which the medals will be decided.
Well done, Team Germany. Very well done. I, as a German, I'm very happy about that result. Gut gemacht. Weiter so. Das mögen wir sehen. Anyways, back to English. That was fun to watch, and we've got more fun coming up, different categories, and we're going to dive into Formula 4 in a minute.
Yeah, so this is the Formula 4 paddock. What's nice about the paddock here at Ricardo Tormo circuit for the Motorsport Games is that all of the garages open into the paddock, so as a spectators you can see the cars. So we've just watched the Formula 4 drivers get in their cars and go to the beginning, to the group, the sort of Parc Fermé before the race. It's nice because Team Angola is there, one of our new countries this year, and next door to Team Angola is Team Austria, who are represented by Oscar Wirtz, who is the son of Formula 1 driver and 2-time Le Mans winner Alex Wirtz. So this kind of transgenerational nature of the Motorsport Games is a key thing. Formula 4 is, of course, an entry level. It goes up the ladder to Formula 1. So it's very, very exciting to watch these guys battle for their countries.
And I think Formula 4 is so special as well because for these drivers, it's a big platform to show what they can do. As you say, they might go up the ladder, up to the pinnacle of Formula 1. They might come from karting. That's where a lot of the Formula 1 drivers have started as well. So it's a great spot to show what you can do, right?
In fact, yeah. I mean, we have a success story from the last Motorsport Games to this one. You know, Kimi Antonelli has made it to the Formula 1 grid. He was the winner of the Formula 4 gold medal in Marseille 2 years ago. So it's a direct transition from here to the very pinnacle of motorsport. Also, by the way, I love the fact that the spectators can see all the rally cars, the historic, the Rally 4, the Rally 2 cars being prepared, and get covered in the smoke of the drift cars that are happening as we speak. There's so much going on.
You're getting way ahead of yourself. We're sticking with Formula 4 for now.
It's too much. I'm
yeah,
like a kid in the candy shop.
David Addison has got another explainer video of Formula 4, so let's take a look at that before we go into all the other categories.
The single-seater action this weekend comes from Formula 4. And F4 is a hugely significant class of racing. Why? Because it runs to an international set of regulations, and you'll find it now all the way across the globe. Everybody this weekend has the same machinery, a Tata's chassis with the modern Halo device, making it not only a safe car, but a contemporary single-seater. They all have Abarth 1400cc turbocharged engines. They all run on a racing tyre. Hopefully it's only going to be slicked this weekend. And again, with everybody having the same equipment, it puts the emphasis on driver and driver ability. There's a qualifying session to determine the grid for the qualifying race. The results of that sort out the grid for the main race, and that is where the medals are going to be scored. 2 editions of the F4 competition have been held so far at the FIA Motorsport Games, and Italy has won both times. That's set to change this weekend.
Yeah, Formula 4 is exciting, but one that you've been looking forward to, that you've already mentioned, is the drifting, which we are constantly surrounded by because of the smoke.
Yeah, we can hear it, we can smell it, but you can watch it. It's got its own stream, and it's brilliant because it's just over there. And the drifting is a very different category. You know, Formula 4 is very much about timing. You've got to qualify, you've got to get to the front of the grid, you've got to race as fast as you can. Drifting's very different. Drifting's all about points and style. They've got to drift through certain zones, transition in a certain way. It's more like the kind of artistic gymnastics, but with some real welly in those cars.
I was going to say, I like to think of drifting as the dancing category category of motorsport.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Definitely, but also it's funny because it has got so much power, and it's kind of the dirty dancing, if you like, side of the FIA Motorsport Games. But that's happening there, and
with a big name as well, right? You told me.
Yeah, so it should be quite well contested because you've got Cuba Jacob Szczegonski, who's the Polish entrant, and he's looking to get gold this weekend. But drifting is going to be very, very tight this weekend.
I think drifting is going to be an absolute highlight. So drifting over there, but we're going to go back to that track, which is Formula 4. It's currently happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're basically, they'll have come out of these garages, they'll have driven around there, and David Addison is going to talk us through it with Joe Osborne. And what you have to remember is that a lot of these compete in their own individual national championships. It's very unusual. It's only really the Motorsport Games that brings them all together to compete on track at the same time.
Let's have a look at some Formula 4 because that's what's happening here now.
The dominant nation in the Formula 4 discipline at the FIA Motorsport Games over the years has been Italy. Winners in 2019, winners in 2022. It could well be a different nation at the very top this year. And this is the second free practice session for the F4 discipline. Everybody in the same type of Tatius chassis with an Abarth 1400cc turbo engine. The cars all run by Spanish teams from the Spanish F4 Championship, and it is one of the best grids of the weekend, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see who comes out on top, because there are some drivers with quite a bit of single-seater experience and some less so, but quite a lot of champions, whether it's been from karting or single-seaters, mixed amongst them. David Addison, Joe Osborne trackside, and as you look at the cars queuing up ready to get themselves out on track, this is the second free practice period. Earlier on in the day it was Team Greece topping the times of Philippe Armand Carras, but they get 45 minutes for these free practice sessions, so you can learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time in an F4 car when you think about how long their races are. So they typically will split this into 3 15-minute runs with gaps in between, do some setup changes, do some driver coaching. Obviously, they're at the start of their single-seater career in F4, so the driver coaches will be downloading the data in the video and giving them improvements to do on the fly in the session to go and find some more time. The top 11 in free practice 1 covered less than a second between them, so very tight already, and we saw Team Greece clear from Spain, from Israel, Portugal, Peru, Australia, Sri Lanka, United Kingdom, Serbia and Brazil. So a real nice mixture of historically strong in motorsport games teams and some new ones in the mix as well. So at the moment, very hard to call after one 45-minute session. Let's see how it looks after this second one.
And they will have a 25-minute qualifying race and then a 30-minute main race for the medals. So the drivers with, as we made the point, lots of track time available. The final circuit race discipline of Friday at the FIA Motorsport Games before the circuit becomes a rally stage. We've already got drivers under investigation for, in the case of the driver of Team Israel's entry, Ariel Alkin, crossing the white line at pit exit. So that's going to be looked at by the stewards, who had an awful lot to look at with the dreaded track limit issue in free practice 1. We had a look, Joe and I, just at where the corners were that people were transgressing, and it was mainly turn 1 and turn 14. And we knew that because at the end of page 3 of all of the lap time deletions, it was still telling us turn 1 and turn 14. But the fact that it was 3 pages long illustrated just how many people were doing it.
Yeah, really, really difficult here at Valencia, the track limits, because it is so wide and open. You can see that shot there, and the cars just want to dip a wheel over the curb, and then that is a track limit. As soon as that last wheel of 4 has crossed the white line, that is illegal. As we look at Team Portugal, a nice bit of space. You can see the cars queuing up on pit exit, just getting ready to do a practice start. So important in single-seater racing from a standing start, as that would be track limits out of turn 4. It just depends whether you get caught out of 5 as well. So some corners heavily policed, some more relaxed.
And Francisco Machido has been a double Portuguese karting champion. This year he's raced in Formula 4 in Spain and in Italy, because it's the same car, same chassis, same engine, so it's worth, if the budget permits, doing as much as you possibly can. He also raced in the Formula 4 Winter Series, the Iberian-based series, at the start of the year. So he's done a lot of mileage in this car, and Francisco Macedo 4th in FP1. So he's somebody that you should anticipate to be up near the top of the times.
Yeah, huge amount of experience, and has done well in a car that is easy to get on top of but hard to be fast in, would be my synopsis of it. I've actually done a few test days in it this year, and it's a lovely car to drive, but to find that last half a second, it gets very leery on the rear of the car. And I don't know why you're laughing. I didn't have any issues, but I could imagine a driver having an issue with the rear, losing grip and not facing the right way.
It's just that I can remember your single-seater days of years gone by.
I technically didn't lose rear grip. I lost all grip as I was upside down, hurtling through the air upside
You gained
down.
altitude even if you lost grip. Yeah. Ariel Elkin from Team Israel, under investigation for crossing the white line at pit exit. He's now lost 2 successive lap times for track limits at turn 1. But he's the fastest. So Ariel Elkin, 1:35.9, which is 4/10 down on what they were doing earlier on in the day. But they will get there, no doubt, as tyres start to come back up to temperature. Number 1 there you're looking at, and the drone is chasing Gennaro, or as he prefers to be, Gino Trappa from the Team Argentina. And he is 6th in Formula 4 Brazil. He's had a win at Interlagos. He's also raced in F4 Spain this year. Quite a few drivers have come to race in Spain with a view, I think, to just gaining a field for working with a team, getting used to the culture even, if it is not the track, but in anticipation of the motorsport games. Those that race in F4 Spain do not drive for the same team in the motorsport games.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one because they would have been opposition at many points this year. So then to join the enemy to try and win a race is a strange format to have. But yeah, when you talk about all these F4 series, it really is a global championship and a global car. And that's why it's so good to have it at motorsport games, because it encapsulates the whole spirit of it, bringing all of these nations together under one roof in one car that is completely the same across all of them. So it really comes down to the driver and what they can deliver.
And it was also the category that was able to keep the Macau Grand Prix going for a couple of seasons, because there was a strong F4 category in the region, and that, while people couldn't really travel, was able to fill that void. Number 14 rattling over the curb for Hong Kong, China is Keishun Liu, but he survived the moment and heads up towards the timing line now. Racing driver and pro golfer. Golfing has, I think, taken a sidestep for racing, but the runner-up in last year's Chinese F4 Championship, Keishun Liu, so he is certainly not below par at the moment.
He's quite diverse to be very good at the best sport in the world and the worst sport in the world, in my opinion, and I'll let you decipher which one I think is that way round.
Well, one's a sport and the other's a walk, isn't it? Yeah.
See a big slide out of 12, then hitting the exit cable, front wheels in the air there, so luckily it came down straight, and you're seeing a lot of cars locking up actually into 14, the next corner that he was making his way to. Very easy downhill just to lock the inside left there, and again running wide. You see the amount of dust as well.
Yeah, an awful lot of that has been dragged onto the circuit, so he survived it, as we see now for Team Norway, Olav Var, who has won the Nordic-based Formula Basic single-seater championship, sort of sub-F4 level. He's won the Norwegian Championship, the Norwegian Cup this year. He's also been racing in Porsches. So Olav Var thinking perhaps about which way the career might go. You know, he'd like to stay single-seaters, but if that doesn't work, well, I've got some GT knowledge through Porsche Cup. So Olav Var could be another dark horse this weekend, although in the earlier free practice session, the Norwegian was only 21st, so there's a bit of time to find.
Yeah, and maybe just a strategy on what they were doing. Maybe they're doing longer runs, anticipate the race, but we've seen another big snap of oversteer there. Drivers are really trying to work the car all the way up to the gravel trap, but to swade that, the curb is rather large on the exit, and these cars actually bottom out, so the wooden floor, the plank, you can just see kissing up a bit of smoke as they run wide, just bottoms out, and that takes weight off the wheels, which then takes grip away from the driver. So it kind of self-police quite well on the exit of turn 12 in that regard.
Mention of the plank prompts the thought of George Russell and Spa, prompts the thought of Mercedes Formula 1, prompts the thought that the winner of the gold medal 2 years ago was Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who will step up to Formula 1 next season. That's quite a career trajectory, but it illustrates the importance of F4 as a category.
Yeah, it's so important. It's an early step on the ladder, but a very important one indeed, and it's really the sort of breeding ground to find that next F1 driver, and that is why it's so hotly contested around the world at all times, because everyone is trying to vie to be the best in F4. Although it sounds a long way from F1, if if you're a winner in F4, you are on a very good path to make it all the way like Antonelli has.
People with long memories will remember how Formula Ford was the global single-seater category. Those days admittedly are gone, but it is important, I think, to have something as a kind of equivalent. I know these are a much more modern car with the halo, with the wing, slick racing tyres, whereas it was a wingless road tyre Formula Ford all those years ago. But something where drivers from around the world can compete on a level playing field and compare themselves against each other. And it's important for teams as well to know where people stand, because trying to compare somebody from a domestic single-seater championship, might be F3, to Formula Regional, to FIA Formula 3, you know, how do I compare all of this? But F4, with everything being similar, the same, you can work it out.
Yeah, it feels like a palate cleanser of motorsport, that anyone can come in from any F4 championship around the world and then go. Of course, there's some more competitive regions than others, but at the moment, when you group them all together, it's almost quite hard to call which is the single most competitive F4 championship, and that just means that everyone has a good shot at winning this weekend, I think.
Now, that timing tower on the left is still showing you that Team Israel, Ariel Elkin, is the fastest. And if you have a look to the very far right, you'll see there are little yellow dashes and there are greens. Green is a personal best in a sector. Yellow is a little bit slower than it was. White is an outlap. But purple is what we need to be looking for, because purple means better than anybody else. And it looks as though we've just had one of those, courtesy of Team Spain, does it not? Because now third fastest is Juan Cota, or Juan Cota Alonso, to give him his full name. There is the Team Spain entry. And having been racing in Spanish Formula 4 this year, in which he's fourth, Juan Cota has got to start as one of the favourites.
Yeah, and he goes all the way up to second there, so still a little slower than this morning's times. Track normally goes off a little bit in the late afternoon, just the track temp comes up, offering slightly less grip to these drivers, so they won't be alarmed yet. But a purple sector 2 is very good from Cota Alonso, and yeah, I think just having that weight of the nation behind you in your home race, it's sink or swim at the moment. He seems to be swimmingly good.
And fourth currently is Greece, which was the nation that topped FP1, courtesy of Felipe Armand-Carras. Replay here of Juan Cota bouncing it over the curb and reaching the gravel, but getting away with that more or less, but he will have lost some time on that lap.
Yeah, a huge amount of understeer coming on the exit there. Normally these cars rotate well. As soon as you apply the throttle, the rear tyres spin up, which lets you rotate the car and not understeer off into the gravel. But he wasn't the first there. You can see some other tyre marks, in the gravel trap. So obviously looks like it might be a bit of an issue there. We need to keep an eye on the exit of turn 5, that one. So all good at the moment. You can sometimes pick up a punch, you get a bit of gravel stuck between the tyre and the rim, and it lets the air out. You can see the smoke coming across the track in sector 3 from the drift there as we drift out of turn 12 with Cota Alonso.
So Juan Cota then is looking rapid and was quicker than he had been in sector 1, a little bit down in sector 2 on this lap. He has got to try to find a hundredth of a second to go quickest. He's 9,000ths down on Ariel Elkin, who is now pitted, and as he breaks the beam up to the top goes Juan Cota. That is, I suspect, P1.
Very good. I was about to ask what do you think his favourite track in America is, but I'll leave that one for a little bit longer. But yeah, purple sector 3, that has just been stolen off him as well, so it's tight, isn't it? But yeah, I think he just needs to probably work on that turn 5, but he's got great race pace as well, as we see Ariel Elkin there looking rather happy. He was first, now down to second. He's probably just been told that, so maybe some of his energy will be dissipated.
Israel karting champion, Italian karting champion, and has been racing in America this year in the US Juniors Championship, fourth in that category. So much travel driver, and Ariel Elkin rapid. There's a yellow flag out between turns 3 and 4, we understand. So somebody has had a moment between the two corners early in the lap and trying to piece together who it is. Yellow in turn 3 and 4, but not instantly seeing anybody stranded on our tracking map. So whether it's a bit of debris that's brought out a yellow flag, we'll check. Through to fourth now goes the Team Australia representative, Griffin Peebles. And there is Nicky Gauci for Team Malta sitting in the pit lane. He's done some hill climbing, he's done lots of karting, but has not raced an F4 car before. So this, for Nicky Gauchi, very proud Maltese driver, is quite a step.
It's a huge step, and it's great to do. The confidence to even suggest it as a plan is wild. So great on him, and you can see the laptop being plugged in. Unlike a road car, that isn't a problem. That's downloading the data, and they'll be able to compare that to a reference lap and see the differences on where he can improve his lap time and how. Is it brake pressure? Is it throttle? Is it steering angle? Is it just corner speed? There are obviously so many aspects to making a car go fast around a corner, and being told it there and then is the best way as a driver to then go out and improve and see if you can make the lap time even better.
The yellow flags have been withdrawn, and we understand it was Gino Trappa from Team Argentina that ran wide and triggered the yellow briefly. At the risk of being a bit parochial about this, Team United Kingdom currently 8th, Riza Siwathan. And we've just had another improvement because Greece, Team Greece, Philip Arman-Karas, up to 3rd. You're looking at him right now, but he's found traffic on this lap.
Yeah, and I think with this many cars on track, all on a different strategy, some on outlaps, some about to come in, it's going to be difficult to find. You do get the slipstream, which is a positive lap time, but then as soon as you compromise, you have to brake a tiny bit early. It's very hard to improve. In a competitive field like this, half a tenth is going to make the difference between position 2 or 3, I think, come qualifying tomorrow.
One bails for the pit lane. And here, Karas comes down the pit straight. Now, is there a benefit in terms of getting a tow from that, or is that dirty air?
At that point, it is a positive, but as soon as you turn into turn 1, it is a negative, right? The dirty air. So you'll tend to lose more front grip just because that's affected more. You can see working hard on the wheel there, correcting the slides as well in that dirty air. Goes for a lunge into 2, locks up the inside. I think that was more of a warning to get out of the way, and it seems to have worked well. But yeah, the Angolan car there had to really get out of the way because it looked like contact was incoming.
Yeah, Lorenzo Campos for Team Angola, which illustrates again, doesn't it, the global nature of F4, the global nature of the FIA Motorsport Games, with Angola being part of it. Lorenzo Campos has been racing at the end of the season in F4 in Spain, stepping up from karting, so he's inexperienced but does have a little bit of knowledge of how the car feels, even if he doesn't know this circuit that well. And for Team Austria there, having run off the road, Oscar Wurz, one of the 2 sons of Alex Wurz, and Oscar has been the Central European Zone F4 champion. He's also won F4 races in Saudi Arabia. He's an Austrian and Hungarian karting champion, so he's got one of the better CVs and will be a man to watch, I would have thought.
Yeah, great pedigree as well, so be interesting to know how much his dad gets involved in the day-to-day of it. Obviously, if your father's been all the way to F1, they've got a good understanding of what's needed from you, so yeah, it must be a great asset to have in the family.
So others just biding their time, and the teams working with the drivers with data, with knowledge, and a big blister on the tyre there. That ain't going anywhere in a hurry.
No, and I think the way the tyre strategy is working this weekend, the team don't want to put another set on, but the flat spot there on the front left, we're saying how easy it is to lock up into 14 as well, into 2 that we just saw on the previous lap. To me, it's performance limiting, but it's probably on the limit of dangerous as well, where one more lock-up on that part, which we know will automatically lock up there because it stops rotating. So where the lock-up spot is always goes to the bottom, and I think that would go pop. So I think they're having to wait there, and maybe they're just deciding should they run another set of tyres.
I wonder whether as well they might be asking for a scrutineer to come and have a look, because if he deems that, as you're suggesting, to be dangerous, he might allow them another tyre.
You're being too kind to the drivers for once. It's a driver mistake. I don't think the scrutineer will buy that and allow them a joker tyre. Typically a joker tyre is if there's force majeure, you get cut from debris, which they could try and blag it, but for me that's a very nice stereotypical lock-up burn mark.
And it was Team Brazil's Matias Camparato that we were looking at as he was sitting in the pit lane. So Camparato, who is the Formula 4 Brazil Championship leader as we stand, 3 times a race winner. Now, who do we go to next? We go to the Portuguese representative, don't we? Francisco Machido, back out on track and trying to push on and get himself back towards the top. He was 4th in FP1 and he's 4th in FP2 as well.
Yeah, and he's in a lovely bit of clear air as well, so he's got another few laps at least until he's going to catch anyone. Lost a bit of time in Sector 2. These cars don't have a delta time on the dash. Most modern cars now do have it. The F4 doesn't, so it really leaves it down to the driver to work out, has this been a good lap or a bad lap? So when you've got that delta, you can live see, was that a good or a bad corner, whereas these guys are just having to go on muscle memory and compare it to what they think is right, which is a great skill to have to learn on your journey all the way up the motorsport ladder.
Right, so Machida goes through, but not an improver, and it is still these 9,000ths of a second between Ariel Elkin and Juan Cota, who had gone quickest, but I think then had that lap taken off him, didn't he, for track limits. So Cota down to second once more. For Team Peru there is Andres Cardenas, and he's another driver that's been busy in the Spanish F4 Championship this year. But and we'll talk on quite a number of the drivers in this context. He's somebody else to illustrate how important the FIA Motorsport Games is, because 2 years ago he was competing in Karting Sprint Junior. Fast forward 2 years, he's made that step up to single-seaters, to car racing, to F4, and here he is back again representing his country. Yeah,
so 2 years ago you would have seen what a great event it is, and at the time he would have only been old enough to race a go-kart. So as soon as he's got old enough, he's been able to promote himself through the ranks into F4, represent Peru, and he's currently inside the top 10 as well.
That's Team United Kingdom's Riza Siwathan, and Siwathan drives for the Campos team, which was founded by the late ex-Formula 1 racer Adrian Campos, but it's one of the go-to Spanish teams. But he's done no testing, he's not raced here before, and of course it's a new team. So even though he races F4 in the UK, and Riza Siwathan was third in the championship, double winner, looked after by Phil Glue's Edge Management Company, there are a lot of news to this weekend.
Yeah, and the track's the hardest one. When you've not tested at a track before, you do a lot of watching the onboard videos, a lot of sim work as well to try and make sure you're in the zone. But as soon as you get here, there's a couple of subtle differences to what you thought on the sim, for example. You suddenly are there. So this is only the second time he's driven on the track. So he's obviously got his areas to work on from FP1, and that's what he's going to be trying to do there. But yeah, I think he will be on for a podium come race day.
Yeah, Riza Siwathan has come out of Ginetta Junior Racing, which is the sort of UK school of hard knocks, and that is for Team Brazil, Camparetto out of the car. So I think what we were looking at in terms of a damaged tyre has now been decided. That's it, the session's over, we don't want to waste another tyre, and really it's your mistake, chap, that's going to cost you the track time, because there is still just under 21 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think it's more than one. I think we can see the one there, and there's also a picture being taken. You can see the construction of the tyres. A great illustration, isn't it? It dissects it quite nicely. The rubber on top into the construction material, a bit of Kevlar in there, then into a sort of a conveyor belt material, and then the air. And when you can see the air, it doesn't normally stay in there very long, as we see Malta getting out as well. So it's almost like these two 45-minute sessions have been a bit too long for some of these drivers and tyres, and it's a hard strategy. Do you use another set of tyres to get some more laps in practice, but then limit your performance capabilities in qualifying and then the races? And most teams, I think, are saying, no, drivers, you just need to hopefully have done enough in the time we've given you to be able to do the job we need from you in qualifying.
And another one for the pit lane is Matos Riba, the former hockey player for Slovan Bratislava. His father, Martin Riba, has been in touring cars, Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Riba translates as fish, hence Brutal Fish Racing, the team that his father used to have. And he's been a karter turned F4 racer in Spain and Italy and Central Europe and the UK over the course of the season. So he has done the mileage.
Yeah, I think it's going to go well this weekend. And again, just down in 14th at the moment. The problem is if you're parking up for the day effectively as a driver, you've got to sort of big yourself up and go, yes, I can do it, but it's going to be hard when you've got 13 cars that are faster than you in this session, as we see Siwathan. A bit of pick up on that tyre, so a bit of dirty rubber sticking to it there, looking to maybe clean it up, so next time he goes out he's going to have to weave left to right to try and get rid of that sort of build-up of excess rubber that feels like a horrible sort of squidgy nature. When you commit to a corner, you're not getting the maximum grip from the tyre you want.
Team Serbia, another of the nations represented by Andrea Kostic, and he's been another regular F4 racer in the Central European zone, in Italian F4 and Euro 4, which is the German-Italian merged series. F4 was quite strong in Germany, then it really struggled, and so it's been kept alive with this Euro 4 concept, where it has a couple of 3 events in Germany and Italy as well, just to keep the interest level up within Germany and to keep the teams in operation as well. And it's been another successful concept, that. But Andrej Kostic comes out now from turn 11, makes the run to 12, and heading towards the end of the lap with still 18 minutes on the clock. The Formula 4 teams, just to make the point for their medals, will have the qualifying session Saturday morning and the qualifying race Saturday afternoon, with the medal-winning main race on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I've seen a big lock-up residue smoke there, just trying to work out who it is. I think it's probably car 11 there, the Portuguese entries. We see even more smoke coming from the drift. On the last lap, went under the radar a bit. Elkin, Team Israel, actually improved the fastest lap of the session with a 33.6 and is in a purple sector 1 as well at the moment. So Israel still pushing on pretty hard. Still slower than FP1 this morning, but only a 10th off now.
But he's done another absolute best within sector 1 on this lap as Team Israel's Ariel Elkin, so he might yet be able to go faster. And I think he's okay in terms of track limit abuses. For Team Hong Kong China, Kai Shun Lu rattles it up over the curb, and he's heading up towards the end of the lap as well, coming now up from turn 5. But Ariel Elkin, in the end, down in 2, down in 3, so a slower lap.
Yeah, and it just shows you that maybe that car only had 2 fast laps in it, because he finished the last lap on a purple and started the next on a purple, but then it dropped off. So more data for the team. They can maybe adjust the tyre pressures and either get them to come in slightly earlier or slightly later to make sure the lap is purple, 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 not split over 2 laps.
Oscar Wurtz talking to the team and explaining for Team Austria what he wants, what the car feels like, and whether there's anything they can do to it. But that's another car that's showing the wear on its tyres.
Yeah, it just looks like the top of that tyre is showing a little bit of the canvas poking through. So interesting on the right side. I expect it more on the left here because there are more left-hand corners. The unloaded inside front, normally locks easier, so the left is more likely to suffer that damage. Another hot spot here for it is turn 8. You can see the amount of lock-up marks on the road there as Argentina kick up a bit of dust on the inside, out wide, sweeping through this flat-out chicane of 9 and 10. Then another hard brake zone because the car's not quite straight, but you need to hook it in for a late apex at 11 and then open it up. And I think the next corner is the hardest corner of the lap. Turn 12, very uphill, very blind on entry from a driver's perspective, but fast. And you can see how wide the cars then run over that exit curb, bouncing on their way through flat out 13, downhill brake zone for 14 to finish the lap here at Valencia.
And this for Team Argentina is Gino Trappa heading up towards the timing line then. So a race winner in Formula 4 Brazil, but it's not going to be an improvement because he's down in 1, he's down in 2, he breaks the beam and stays 9th fastest. So number 1, Gino Trappa goes by, road to himself, but no benefit. 15 minutes still on the clock, and quite a number of them now in the pit lane. And I'm getting a little bit concerned about Reza Seaworthen because he's dropped down to 12 in the times now. So hopefully, if he can go back out, might be able to find a little bit of time. But more than anything, it's mileage. The more laps he does, yeah, it's taking life out of the tyres, but he's gaining in experience, gaining in track knowledge. 21, also to the curbs, is for Czechia, or the Czech Republic, Maximilian Kahan. And he has been 4 times a race winner in the Central European Zone F4 Championship this season.
Yeah, I think the car looks pretty good. Obviously, all being run by the same team, but a lot of setup changes they can do. Some of the cars, to me, looking a little soft on the rear. So when they're using these exit curbs, they're popping up as we see another lock-up mark into turn number 1. So again, the drivers with more experience are just able to guide the team a quicker direction and path or the setup they will want, so they'll get the car exactly how they want. Whereas if it's your first time in the car, quite understandably, you don't quite know the parameters of the setup changes that are available to you.
So Kahan is up to 16th, and he was an improver last time, so let's see what he can do now. He is late in the session, being able to find a 10th or so. There's quite a number, as I say, in the pit lane. We've got a good 8, I would think, out of the 21 sitting in the pits. Others still circulating, but improvements fewer and further between. Ariel Alkin remains the fastest by 0.3 of a second, and it's the leading 8 covered by just under a second.
Yeah, it's tight, but not as tight as FP1. And again, I think that's just down to people looking to save the tyres a little bit more, whereas in FP1, they would have been brand new and at their best. So, yeah, I think we're probably used to seeing normally the top 15 to top 20 in these F4 Championship covered by a second. And I think that's what we'll see in qualifying tomorrow once they're all on the same age tyre again, brand new rubber. They'll probably be into the low 34s would be my prediction on their lap times.
As Maximilian Carhan then makes the run up towards the timing line, and as he comes across, I can't see this being an improvement given those sectors have been down for the previous 2 splits of the lap.
Yeah, and they might just be on a slightly different strategy now where they're looking more at their race pace. So just trying to do maybe 8, 9 laps in one run, trying to keep it within a 10th, not making mistakes, so the consistency is there. Fastest car of the session still, Team Israel. Elkin coming into the last corner. You can see him working the wheel, opening the steering up. The quicker you open that steering wheel, the quicker the car accelerates. It's amazing how much resistance there is in these cars when you have the lock on. It's one of the sort of the great studies I like to do with my students I coach in single seaters, is get them to push the car with the steering wheel straight and then put full lock on and then try and push it again. And the resistance of just having that extra bit of steering lock in is so much that the car physically can't be pushed then, and it gives you an appreciation when you've only got a 1.4 engine putting out around 175 horsepower. So any marginal gain stuff like that becomes even more important than in a high power car where you can get away with it essentially.
Just under 12 minutes on the clock, as there for Team Sri Lanka is Yevan David, and he's another driver illustrating the global reach of the FIA Motorsport Games, and another driver not only to be in F4 in Spain this season, but back at the Motorsport Games. He took the silver medal in karting senior 2 years ago in Marseille and Paul Ricard. So some familiar names, even if they're changing categories.
Yeah, and again, it just shows you how well this FIA Motorsport Games works. And again, you're just seeing how many drivers are looking at data. Actually, got Kostic there looking on his phone. I assume that's at the live timing, just seeing how he's getting on. He's pretty happy with his 7th position at the moment. And yeah, he's just keeping an eye on everyone, seeing if anyone can get in front of his Team Serbia car.
And there's Reza Seaworthen. So for Team United Kingdom, he improved last time. Reza is up to 9th. And with the patriotic nose on the car, let's see what he can do as he wriggles through this next lap. He is one of the drivers that's done perhaps more than most, not the most, but he's done now 15 laps out of the session. And he is on this lap down in sectors 1 and 2. So 1 push lap done, but he's not going to be able to back it up by the look of it.
Yeah, I think he was just compromised a little bit by some traffic there. The 21 car Team Czech Republic of Karhan, I think, was trying to get out of his way at turn 2, but did just compromise Team UK there. As we see the drone, love this shot, trying to chase all the way through. Gives you a great illustration of where they place the car over the curbs. And you can see all the dark rubber on the outside. That's the drift cars that have been there, but on the way into the corners, that is where we're struggling, locking up the front brakes as we see the uphill turn 12 coming into shot now, and the exit curve, which is really roughing these drivers up. So I think Reza here is looking to set a lap up for the next one, and we will see where we go. That was Kostic we saw last sat in the car. They've called it a day there. High fives all round. Very happy indeed for Team Serbia.
Yeah, because today really is about getting the car right, getting the driver right. It's tomorrow when the qualifying session that gets underway. That's when, if you like, you've got to deliver. But today, to go to bed with that sense of confidence is really mission accomplished.
Yeah, and it's so nice as a driver going to sleep happy. The brain is a powerful tool for and against, and when you've had a bad day, it's amazing how long it can take you to drift away off to sleep, just worrying about what was I doing at turn 4 so badly. It just becomes becomes all your life, especially at this age. You have got one focus and desire, and that's to win every race all the way up to F1.
So with just under 9 minutes still on the clock, it is Team Israel, Ariel Alkin at the top, from Team Spain's Juan Cota, and then Team Greece's Felipe Armand Carras third. And at the foot of the times is the Qatari, Badr Al-Salaiti, who has been a Qatar karting champion, but limited knowledge of car racing. So again, it's perhaps for people like him more important to be on track gaining mileage, but he's only done 5 laps and has spent quite a lot of the time in the pit lane, and so makes one wonder whether all is well there.
Yeah, I haven't seen that car, so we don't know if it's maybe got a problem or it is, again, just part of the strategy of trying to save the tyres a little bit. It'd be interesting to speak to some of these drivers and go, are there any similarities? So in Qatar, the Doha F1 circuit is brilliant. The Lusail circuit, built for motorbikes, as is Valencia. So it actually feels quite similar to me, those two tracks, although they're a few thousand miles apart. He may be able to draw on some similarities from Lusail and go, actually, turn 4 and 5 quite similar, and I can then go there, and that's what he's going to hope for in qualifying.
And now Juan Cota for Team Spain is being given the driving standards flag for 10 track limit offences. Now, that's quite a lot, really. I know it's free practice, and losing a lap time here doesn't matter as much as it would in the qualifying or having track limit penalties in the race. But as Peter Dumbrek, who's one of the driving standards advisors here this weekend for GT, was saying, treat that white line as though it's a barrier. Don't keep crossing it.
Yeah, and you can show Peter's retired from driving now, because he wouldn't have said that 10 years ago. But my excuse for Coto Alonso there would be that this is practice and you're finding the limits. The problem is next time you're in the car as qualifying, you can't do it. So now I want you to go and pump in 3 or 4 laps without a single track limit to make sure your eye is fully in ahead of qualifying tomorrow, and you don't make a sloppy track limit mistake, which could really hurt you by the end of that qualifying session.
Great shot looking down from the drone at the cars coming down the pit lane. The big grandstand atop the pits. Look right to the paddock. Keep going right, keep going right. You'll see the drift track in the background, where presumably there is a lull because there's no smoke being generated. But the F4 teams getting the cars sorted. There is the Qatari driver I was mentioning a little while ago. So walking back up the pit lane is Badr Al-Salaiti. So certainly work done for today, but I would have thought he would want the mileage, which does put a question mark over that car.
Yeah, I think the team will look at it, and obviously they'll have so much data to be able to review this evening and find exactly where some of that time may be. I think a lot of the drivers now going to weigh, actually, so all the teams have got to meet the minimum weight. Driver weight changes quite a lot over the course of the day, mainly through fluid differences throughout the session, so they want to make sure they're all the right weight come the end of qualifying. We can see the Luxembourg car there, Chester Kiefer. They've had a pretty good day. Just a bit of a debrief with the data engineer, making sure there are no problems. All the teams always like to ask the driver any problems with the car, because drivers have this amazing habit of going home and then the next morning going, did you fix the problem I had with the brakes?
You never told me.
You never told me. Ah, sorry. So that is the #1 question to ask a young driver. Full of adrenaline, not always logic.
Reza Seaworthen for Team United Kingdom improved on his previous lap, 1:36.4, but he's on a slower lap again. We saw this early, didn't we? He'd have a good lap and then a slower lap to let the times recover. 25 is the Sri Lankan driver Yevan David, and he is currently 11th, going quite nicely. There aren't many racing drivers out of Sri Lanka. I can think of Yevan David and Delantha Malagamura, the regular GT racer. But motorsport is a popular sport in the nation, even if not many that have been able to come to Europe to do it. But Yevan David, he's going nicely here. Let's face it, some pretty tough opposition. Yeah, and I was actually at Monza last weekend. David won in the F3 race out there, so fast driver, and difficult conditions at Monza last weekend, so his car control worked absolutely on point. So yeah, maybe as these tyres start to drop off and start to slide, maybe proportionally his lap time will even get him a little higher than just outside the top 10 potentially for him. So Yevan David on a slower lap, but it's looking good for Team Israel, isn't it, for Ariel Elkin, topping the times by 0.367 of a second. Yevan David up towards the line. and goes for the pit lane instead. So interesting to see whether with 4 minutes to go he calls that a session. I would have thought that will be it, really, because there's not a lot to benefit for going back out again.
No, by the time you've done your out lap, there's just going to be time for one flyer, isn't there? So, yeah, the only thing maybe your team would like to do is a dramatic tyre pressure change just to get a read on, if we go really low, how does that car feel? But, yeah, I think that is day done. And you look on the timing tower there, all the coloured bars, there is not a single green one there. No one is improving on their sectors, and I think that is the end of the session looming on us.
Yes, anybody that is still out there is not doing their tyres any good. It's one of those great quandaries, isn't it, of what you do as a driver, as a team, because people always want track time. We've paid this entry fee, we want all this track time, but then you don't use it. And so, because the tyres don't want to have endless laps taken out of them, you end up sometimes with a fallow track. But interesting that the fastest man in the session has gone back out. See, this is an out lap. So Ariel Elkin back out onto the circuit, and what he's going to prove by this, what he's hoping to achieve by this, remains to be seen. I'm just wondering whether or not you need to be on the track at the end of a session to be able to do any practice starts, which is about the only motivation for going back out, as Juan Cota, in contrast, has done.
Bit of a sweat on as well. Ambient temperatures just about 20, but again shows you the physical nature of these cars. No power steering, no driver aids whatsoever. So a physical car to hustle around a tight, twisty circuit like Valencia, especially on the infield, as we see Carras out of the car as well, looking happy. All the team members, you can see everyone wearing their nation's colours as well. It's nice walking around the paddock and you can see who's representing which team, supporting which team, as we see a big lock-up from Team Austria there. So easy to do, and Wirtz really struggling to release the brake pressure and alleviate that lock-up.
Yeah, so things going from bad to Wirtz for Oscar Wirtz. The Carras family, just going back to Team Greece, you've just been looking at Philippe Armand, his brother racing in one of the karting disciplines at the FIA Motorsport Games. So Team Greece keeping it in the family, as it were. Now, Riza Seaworthen is up to the top 6. So he's the one, if you like, joker in the pack here, who late on is being able to find a little bit more time. And on this lap, he's done 2 greens as well. So another improvement is imminent, although he's up the curb coming through turn 12 there. But Riza Seaworthen will be able to get certainly 1 more lap out of the session. He may not need it, because this might be the ultimate that the tyres can permit. Fights the car out of 12. Up towards the timing line he comes, and Riza Seaworthen will go through 6th at the start of the lap. He breaks the beam. He's up to 5th, so it was worth sticking it out. He's improved across all 3 sectors, and he goes 5th fastest.
Yeah, I think you said right at the exit of 12. Probably lost a 10th or 2, so that'd be good for him. Now within 7/10 of the fastest. Is he going to push? This will be his last lap. Checkered flag will be out next time he comes around. Definitely pushing on at the moment. Last lap, these tyres won't get used again, Reza, so you might as well use them. They go in the bin, so make sure you extract every last ounce of performance out of them as he comes through sector 1 now. Is he green? Let's have a look as it pops up any second now. 36.3 last time by in sector 1. 36.2, 1/10 quicker. 6/10 is the delta over the whole lap, and he's just found one of them in 1 sector, so he's going to keep pushing all the way through here. I don't think he's going to get any traffic either as he comes into a big brake zone. Turn number 8, get the car in, get it out, open the steering through the fast chicane here, looking not to lock the brakes up, hard on the brakes for 11. Look into your apex now, get the car in, nice and calm with his hands, no corrections, so he's sort of read it pretty well there. Coming through the end of sector 2 now, is it going to be an improvement? Another green sector here, so this has got a chance, I think, to maybe, if it's perfect, get him all the way up to 2nd, because the gap between 1st and 2nd, 3.5 tenths, he is somewhere there. 3rd is most likely as he locks the brake into 14, and that probably is enough to bleed away the majority of his time loss, and I think this is probably going to be a more like a 4th position lap. Let's see, as he crosses the beam, he goes up to 3rd place. I think he'll be very happy with that quite big mistake under braking for turn 14.
And that brings us to the checkered flag. We've got another driver under investigation. It is Philippe Armand Carras for not following the race director's instruction, which may be to do with what you do at the end of the session. It may have been with how to come down the pit lane. But anyway, he is under investigation. So that plot will continue.
and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then last corner
You can hear them talking about the lockup. And they're saying it gets bigger and bigger, and that's just because that flat spot always goes to the bottom of the wheel. So when you do brake slightly too hard, it locks up there. I just want to listen in a little more.
It's not a circle, it's a square.
Yeah, it's a square.
Yeah, he's backing me up with that theory that he now has square tyres, which I don't think are the optimal shape for a race car tyre. But luckily for tomorrow, you have a brand new set of Pirellis for the start of their qualifying session.
So that qualifying is going to be really interesting, that's for sure. And the drivers coming then towards the end of their in-lap. And then we can have a look at the order. And bear in mind, it's not the grid, it is free practice, but it's been an interesting session nonetheless. And then compare and contrast how people have done today with how they get on in qualifying, which is a shorter period of time. So the pressure is on when they get on track tomorrow. And the qualifying session will be 8:30 in the morning, so a really different track temperature. It's going to be quite chilly. You know, we woke up this morning to find wet roads. It was a little bit damp, and it could be a whole different ball game. What they've learnt today may be completely void tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm honestly being sincere as well here with my comments, but getting young drivers up that early in the morning, it's amazing the disparity between them. Some of them like to get up early, they're ready to go. Some, they're young adults growing, they need their sleep. So 8:30 will be a pretty rude awakening for them. The adrenaline will take over, but even that can be a tenth or two difference, and I think in a championship race like this, that could be enough for quite a few positions.
So very happy Ariel Elkin gets out of the car, and a job well done, no question about it. So the Team Israel driver, who's been successful in single-seaters in the States this year, representing his nation, and very happy man indeed. So walked away, goes to talk to the team, we'll look at the data, but the F4 discipline has always been one of the features of the FIA Motorsport Games, and fascinating to see how drivers come from karting into it and then how they do in this discipline. So we look forward to qualifying, we look forward to the qualifying race tomorrow, with then the main race for the medals being on Sunday. So at the end of free practice 2 for Formula 4 within the FIA Motorsport Games, Team Israel, the fastest, Ariel Elkin, the driver, ahead of Team Spain, the margin being 0.367 of a second. United Kingdom up to third in the end. Reza Seaworthen took third ahead of Team Greece's Felipe Almancaras, Portugal's Francisco Machido, and then at sixth was Griffin Peebles for Team Australia. After that, one or two further down than you might have anticipated, including Gino Trapper for Team Argentina, only 10th, Oscar Wirtz and Matus Rieber 13th and 14th. More to come from them, one would have thought. And also, Matteo Comparato didn't do many laps, given that he damaged a tyre early on. Qatari driver, rounding out the order being Badr Al-Solaiti. So that's the order at the end of the second free practice session, and 8:30 Saturday morning is when they're back on track for the all-important qualifying session. Free practice 2 for the Formula 4 discipline in the FIA Motorsport Games. Had the cars pouring out on track for 45 minutes of preparation for the qualifying session on day 2. And it was a busy track, and one or two drivers getting a few mistakes out of their system early on, including Kai-Shun Liu, who had a big lock-up heading into turn 2. But he was able to scrabble his way around that, only to then run off the road later around the racetrack, coming out of turn 12, rattled over the curbs once more. But the driver from Hong Kong, China, able to regroup. He wasn't the only one in strife, though, because getting it wrong as well for the Slovakian nation was Matus Rieber, and others were having big lock-ups elsewhere, including Felipe Almancaras, who was trying to get through the traffic and eventually rather monstered Team Angola out of the way. Reza Seaworthen for Team United Kingdom was able to find some good laps late in the session, partly because the road was clearer as well, but Seaworthen got himself up to third for Team UK, as Oscar Wirtz had a late session lock-up for Team Austria, and he ended the session 13th fastest. Others just ran out of road completely down at turn 1, but thankfully able to rejoin the road without picking up any damage. The free practice period for the drivers, very much a learning exercise. Lots of drivers being done for track limits, and Philippe Armancaras for Team Greece under investigation for not following the instructions of the race director. But having topped the times for the bulk of the session, it was Team Israel that hung it out there to the very end. Juan Cota was second for Team Spain, but Ariel Elkin for Team Israel fastest by 0.367 of a second. Italy has hitherto dominated F4 in the FIA Motorsport Games. On today's evidence, though, it's going to be very different as Israel tops free practice 2.
Driver's license, most of them.
Yeah, and it's brilliant because what we've got now is all the cars are going into scrutineering. And my temptation is to go and feel the tyres, but that's just because I'm a bit of a motorsport geek. Obviously, David Addison and Joe Osborne have been explaining, all about the Formula 4 category, and at the moment Formula 4 is actually racing in esports, but we'll come to that in a minute. But we probably should bring our guest in to talk a little bit more about this category. Let's bring Javier in. Javier, would you like to come and join us?
Hi Javier.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Hi, good, perfect. So happy to be here, to be honest, yeah.
So maybe you can tell us what exactly your role is, because we know you're Deputy Director of Single Seaters. What does that involve?
Well, this is involving a lot of things, because actually our department is taking care of the operations in Formula 1, plus all the junior categories at the FIA in single-seater. So it means Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula Regional, and this one, Formula 4. So
which one's your favorite?
All of them. All of them. I have no preferences. Yeah. So good.
And what did you think of that session? Who stood out for you? Who should we keep our eye on from that session?
I think, to be fair, because I don't want to get in trouble with any of the countries, the context is that everyone is so new, everyone is trying to get used to both the car and the track. We have an interesting mix of drivers with some expertise in Formula 4, some other with less experience, but with a lot of hunger, let's say. So I think it's too early. I think tomorrow qualifying is going to be the all or nothing thing. At the moment, they are just trying. Obviously, you can see some names and some guys that they are really improving lap by lap and being super consistent, but I think it's too early. Let's give them the same chance to everyone.
And give us an idea of how difficult but how exciting it is to pull together all of these nations and all of these kids to race together, because of course they come from their own domestic leagues, their own domestic champions. Just give us that context.
Well, for us, despite this competition is done in between countries, what we want from the single-seater department is to get the best out of all the Formula 4 championships we have around the world, which is 15. So for us, it's really important to have representation of all continents, with representation of drivers of the most important Formula 4 championships. Some other kids, they were already participating in 2022 in FIA Motorsport Games in karting. So altogether it's like a perfect mixture. No? We have all the type of expertise, but it's consistent because we are getting the best out of each country. And we are providing some logic to the pyramid of the single-seater. So, they are today in Formula 4, and like in the case of Antonelli, in 2 years, who knows what's going to happen with them. So
it's very exciting, and it's great to watch them having the chance to fully stretch their legs out on this amazing circuit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Javier.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend. And remember, no favourites.
I'm sure I'll have favourites. I'm rooting for Germany and UK, I'm going to be honest.
Wow, I was going to be completely unbiased the whole weekend, but now you've done it. I'm Motorsport UK. Anyway, but there's Team China, so that we can root for them as well. Now, the great thing about, we've just watched F4 for real, but a few kilometers away in central Valencia is the F4 Esports, which is new for this motorsport game. So before we had GT Esports, which was on Assetto Corsa, but we've brought together Assetto Corsa for that and iRacing for F4 in the Sims. So I think we should catch up with one of our F4 races in the esports, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great link from F4 to F4 Esports.
Definitely, let's do it.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the 2024 FIA Motorsport Games here in Valencia, and welcome to the esports segment of the competition. I'm Chaz Draycott with the delightful Paul Jeffrey alongside me, and we've had a fantastic day of racing so far. And already, Paul, we find ourselves in the final quarter-final of the FIA F4s on iRacing. It's 15-minute races, so they've flown by anyway, but they've been massively entertaining.
That was a sentence that was deeply easy to trip up over, wasn't it? The final quarter-final of the FIA Formula 4. Yes, absolutely. We've had a great time. It really has. I mean, we always say it's a great time, and frankly, it's our job to say it's a great time, but it genuinely is a great time. There've been some really fabulous races, and as you say, final roll of the dice for the Formula 4s in the quarter-finals at least. And race 1, borderline mayhem in a wonderful way. Race 2, a little bit more sedate, a little bit more sensible. Are we going to have a hybrid of the both for the third?
I think so, yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers, much like we did in the GTs earlier today, take it very easy in this one compared to the races before them. So I'm excited to see how much that really dials back the action. But it was more like the first one, it was like you tried to light a firework and it's just gone off in your hand. The second one, they'd put a much longer fuse on it because they'd learned from the first time. This time it might be one of them where they light the fuse and then it doesn't actually get all the way to the firework at the end. Or it just suddenly, I don't know, flies in a random direction. It could be anything. It's really, really exciting stuff with Formula 4s because, again, the theme of it has been they're not the fastest things in the world in a straight line. They barely exceed 100 miles an hour down the Kemmel Straight, but the slipstream effect is huge. We saw it at the end of that last race there. We had an onboard camera, and all of a sudden, Spain and the Netherlands, every lap, they were just breezing past everybody as if they had an extra 50 horsepower in the machine. It was brilliant to watch, but it meant that the field stayed close together, and on the final lap of the race, the top 10 was separated by less than 3 seconds. It's just epic.
That really is crazy, isn't it? It's almost like you can't fit 10 cars nose to nose in a 3-second time frame. It's probably because most of them were overlapping or flying over the top of the other one.
They were over the barriers a bit, yeah.
There was a little bit of using the full width of the racing surface and more, yes, some might say. But fabulous, fabulous entertainment. As you say, some really great performances as well. And now we do this for the final time in the quarterfinals. We've still got a couple of races, I think it is, for the last chance saloon, so to speak, Group 1 and Group 2. They'll be coming more towards this evening. What are we expecting then from this one? There's a lot of strong nations in here, aren't there? So this should be a real show of strength, I think, in terms of the potential, should I say, for the performances and the quality of the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at the group list for this, actually, the top of the group is Czech Republic, and their driver won in the GT category as well, you know, so they've got a lot of pedigree coming into this one. We've got the likes of Germany in here as well. Hungary have been quick. I noticed India were fast in the practice as well, actually, at the start of the weekend. So there's a really, really good list in this race, and it's a very full one too. So I'm excited to see what some of the nations have sort of displayed to us before now, whether they carry that through into this race, because Paul and I have been sat here, we've had the wonderful screen down here below, we've got another one there, we've got the massive screen there, and also the fact that we've got these two eyes as well to actually just look at what's going on in the sim. So we've had an idea on which nations have been doing well so far, but it's become such a mixed bag, hasn't it? Yes. Because there's so many involved. We never know who's going to win going into any race.
Quite frankly, nobody else ever knows who's going to win going into the bus stop chicane.
As is Formula 4.
As is Formula 4, exactly, and that's why we absolutely love this category of racing. You can see the cars are lining up on the grid. Now, a quick rundown of the order. Czech Republic are in pole position from India, Republic of Korea in third, and Germany fourth. Fifth goes the way of Hungary, Estonia in sixth. Turkey will be lining up in seventh ahead of Croatia. Hong Kong, China is ninth, and then in 10th place it is Barbados. And in 11th position, Slovakia, Uruguay, Luxembourg, Colombia, Lithuania, Armenia, Namibia, and Kosovo in 18th and last.
Absolutely nailed the timing on that, Paul. We're underway for the final quarter-final here at the FIA Motorsport Games in the FIA Formula 4 cars. Down into La Source for the first time. The Republic of Korea going down the inside of India, making the move and taking that second position. There's a car around at the top, and a couple of other cars have gone off into the gravel and have to recover, but you never give up. You carry on pushing. The battle is on for second place. The Republic of Korea in the red car just ahead of India as they head up now through a Rouge and Radion. A fearsome set of corners, but look at fourth place Hungary here, Paul. They're going to get the run, surely gain some places here.
Yeah, double slipstream for Hungary. This is a real good opportunity. He's trying to find a bit of real estate. Two cars taking up the racetrack. It's really difficult to pick your spot. Almost, you have a little bit too long to think about it, and that can go very wrong very quickly indeed. India are the ones that really miss out on this one. Good car control, but while they're doing that one, get swallowed up, and then it is an absolute nightmare. The groans from Chaz Draycott alongside me tell you all you need to know. That was good. not very good at all, all in one throw.
Germany and Estonia involved in that one as well. I think it was the number 5 car of Germany. They were right in the thick of it, and they really had nowhere to go. He didn't want to commit to turning in too hard, and it just understeered that little bit. Had to open up the corner, and then that was the contact that put him in the air. Estonia went in on it as well. I didn't quite pick up which car it was that went around the outside and went over the grass, but it's the German machine that is dropping right down the order, I'm afraid. A huge, huge shame. Uruguay already in the pits after their early debacle. More and more contact nearly. That's the number 22 machine of Namibia around the outside of the Fania chicane. They're right in there with Turkey and Luxembourg. That's a great way of making the move around there. But this is the thing at Spa-Francorchamps here, Paul. We see it a lot. If you can find yourself on the outside line in a car like this on the way into the chicane, use the inside of the second bit of the chicane, you can often get the move done, can't you?
Absolutely, and of course when you're on the outside, you're not really, people are expecting that one, so you line yourself up forward thinking racecraft, something we spoke about a whole load 3 wide at this moment in time as well. This could never end well on the run up to Blanchimont. Hopefully everybody sorts himself out into some kind of single file. 2 wide still through Blanchimont now. We're looking at the steering inputs there on the picture-in-picture, and then the big screen. We're seeing all of the drama and more unfold, and you've got to have eyes in the back, the side and the front of your head in one of these.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You want to take on the vision of a deer, to be honest with you, to be able to see all the way around you in 360 degrees of vision. But this is the lead battle, and Czech Republic, Republic of Korea and Hungary, 1, 2 and 3. After breaking away from the pack due to that incident earlier on, they're going to be feeling a lot more comfortable. I don't think we're going to see many moves here, you know. They might work together like we saw with Singapore and Malaysia earlier on in the competition, where they'll overtake each other in a straight line because they're not giving up any time there. They may as well just tow each other around a little bit. And yeah, look, he's just bump drafting. He's just giving him a bit of a push and saying, look, you can go like this. Luxembourg, sorry, not Luxembourg, it's Hungary, on the right-hand side of shot now, around the outside. Going to go for the lead. They don't need to risk it too much, though. He's giving him all the room in the world, but he's actually still taking the race lead. So Hungary is hungry for a position and takes it now as they head through Malmedy ahead of the Czech Republic and the Republic of Korea. But that's how you do it.
As a driver, I would hate these games. I would absolutely hate these shenanigans because, as you say, well and truly clear, a country mile away, so to speak, for a Formula 4 car from Hong Kong, China in 4th position. They have to play the game together, they have to help each other with a slipstream, but this is just nothing good, only bad can come from this kind of close proximity working, so it's very, very scary. We're looking on board with Hungary now. Nice racing gloves, I do like those, I must say. Yeah, and concentration, you can't afford to be even momentarily let it lapse, can you? Especially in this scenario, because there's nothing to win and everything to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to just be on it and make sure that it's risk versus reward is the forefront of your mind, and it's all about staying determined and concentrated. As our driver from the Netherlands winning earlier on in the day has now up towards just Blanchimont, only Blanchimont, nothing to worry about. Side by side they go, but again, look at all the space they're affording each other. They're saying, no, let's not do this. I'm just going to make sure I'm giving you the room. Hungary slots back into second place. Czech Republic re-inherits the lead. Republic of Korea moves to the left-hand side. Doesn't send it down the inside for a move. They're braking nice and early. This is great teamwork, this. And at this early stage of the competition, if you're one of these 3 competitors, you'll be so appreciative of the other guys helping you do this as well. I imagine a big hug between these 3 at the end of this race, because this, right now, is brilliant. And they're actually still getting away from Hong Kong, China, because of the slipstream as well. They're pushing the car at the front and just swapping and changing. It's like being in like a peloton, this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you get to the front and you help drag the ones behind you further forward.
And you often find in this particular car, they seem to be semi-specialists at this kind of thing. They race this regularly in the magnitude of different championships all over the world. So this sort of behaviour is not necessarily uncommon and unknown to them. It's the kind of thing that we do. We saw briefly in our shot there, the Korea car, which is currently where our Republic of Korea 3rd position. That's the red machine that you see at the back of this little duo as we run down into Le Camp. Give each other the racing room. Don't be greedy on the brake. Very nicely done. Really smooth, which, as we've alluded to well, not alluded to it, straight up talked about the iRacing damage model in the past. Very, very easy to just miscalculate slightly, and then suddenly you find your front wing is being collected by someone to take home and hang on their wall, and you've got a world of understeer.
That's the sort of thing we'd do, isn't it? It's a shame you can't do it virtually. We'd collect so many, it'd be brilliant. But yeah, you can very
NFT front wings, there you go, that's the future. NFT front wing scraps. That'd be amazing.
I need to know what the chassis number is. But yeah, we get a tiny bit of contact in these cars and you can get flung off into the barrier, body parts of the car will be missing. It's not a pretty sight, so you need to be making sure that you do not risk anything. And you know, Paul and I are talking about the fact that these drivers aren't risking much, and you could see they were still side by side, but at the end of the day, they don't want to lose time in the bigger picture. If they sat just behind each other all the time like this, that's when they'd lose time. The fact they are still chopping and changing positions and swapping around on the straights and using the slipstream means that they are getting away. Hong Kong China, though, I say that literally as it falls out of my mouth, I've noticed Hong Kong China have reeled them in by about 0.3 of a second. It's not a massive amount, but there's still over 8 minutes left in this race, and if they keep that pace up, then they should be okay. And by the time I've said that, they've lost another 2 tenths.
Yeah, here we go. Speaking of the team in question, this is the Hong Kong China car. Put my teeth in, Paul, in 4th position. They've got a little bit of a battle pack behind them as well, for good measure. Barbados leading the charge there in 5th position from Colombia and Croatia. So there's a few cars all sort of squabbling over the same bit of tarmac. Again, importantly, they're in the top 10. That's where you need to be. Yeah. No need to fight too hard, but at the same time, you tell a racing driver to chill out and not fight too hard, and they will look at you as though they don't understand a word you've just said.
Yeah, there's only 1 or 2 language barriers here at the FIA Motorsport Games with the amount of languages that we all speak collectively. But yeah, even then, no matter what, if you said it to any of the drivers, no matter how good their English is, if you told them, yeah, don't go for the move, just sit there, no chance they would even pretend not to understand what on earth you're on about. So hats off to these guys, because they're all so determined and they all want to gain every tiny little inch of circuit. I'm intrigued to see how this is in the final lap, Paul.
Yes.
Because on the results sheet is where it's going to matter more than how it matters now. They're getting away from the cars behind, but when it comes to who actually wins this race of these 3 in flying formation, they're all going to want to win it, but at the end of the day, they're not going to want to risk everything. So now Republic of Korea go to the front of the order. Oh, there's a bit of a check-up, though, and the Hungarian car nearly gets rear-ended by the Czech Republic machine. You can see they've lost a bit of momentum as a result of that. But it's still very, very close racing all the same. I'm enjoying this. This is a great, great chase.
Yeah, nice show of formation flying from these front 3 drivers. Another 1/10 of a second in the first sector that the Hong Kong China outfit has managed to close the gap down in 4th position. So they're still working, punching the hole in the air for the chasing pack. And of course, they're going to need to start playing a little bit of this swapsy game as well if they want to try and improve their slot in life. But look at the Barbados entry at this moment in time. 5th position for that car. Really good opening start to this race. We've lost a couple of drivers as well, as you can see on the timing tower there. So no less than 5 cars, in fact. Lithuania are the last car that's just gone down pit lane. They've not filtered to the bottom of the timing tower yet, but they're now a DNF, which is a real shame for them.
Yeah, India as well, actually, far down the order there in car 39. They started 2nd on the grid. It's a massive shame to see that they've dropped down that far. Just looking at the others as well, Germany started 4th on the grid. Uruguay started a little bit further down. Slovakia were with them as well on the same part of the grid, which makes me think that that's probably what the drama was at the very first corner. But the likes of Estonia as well, also out of this race. A lot more attritional than we saw on a set of course of Competizione, Paul, earlier, just due to the style of the cars and the way that the racing works. You know, it's a car that, you know, you have the tiniest little touch and that is race over.
Colombia in the back of your shot just snuck past Barbados into the bus stop chicane, so that was a nice move for Colombia. They move up into 5th position. Croatia getting a bit interested as well. Yeah. They fancy their chances of doing a bit of moving and shaking in this midpoint. 5 minutes left to go on the clock, so not a lot of time left, Chaz, to wind this one up. And I think we're getting to that stage now where some of these drivers are going to be thinking, I've enjoyed playing, it's been nice, but actually, you know what, I want a bit of glory for myself.
Yeah, can you all now go away, for lack of better words? Get out of the way, just let me go about my race. Croatia now with big pressure from behind from Turkey. You've got to be careful of track limits there as you go up over Erosion Radion, because you can easily just misjudge that curb on the left. And if you take too much of it and over the white line, then that is it. Track limits will not be your best friend. Now Namibia in the background will be thinking, rubbing my hands together here. If these lot have a bit of a fight, this is the lead battle again. Hungary now back in front of the Republic of Korea. Czech Republic were leading early on and stayed there for quite a while. Now they find themselves in 3rd position. Hong Kong China still in 4th, but that gap has stayed about 3 seconds, between 3.5. So doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon.
Problem for Hong Kong China, of course, is the battle pack behind them are all fighting tooth and nail on themselves. So he's very much kind of left out on a limb a little little bit in fourth position. Nobody really supporting him, nobody helping him close the gap down, while these three at the head of the pack are very much working in unison in first, second and third position. Saying that one, Hungary have stolen a little bit of a march. It's okay, give it 3 corners, that'll vanish again, and the Republic of Korea will have a little bit of a ponder as to whether they want to overtake, and more importantly, inside or outside. That's basically the decision point, isn't it? Pass on the outside or the inside. That's all they've got to do at this stage.
That's the thing here at Spa as well. You've got more of an opportunity to use both. You can go around the outside or the inside, or even with these 3 wide slipstreaming that we saw before, you can go for the middle as well. Just go through the middle of your 2 competitors.
Over the top. Some of the drivers have tried, but that's not worked so well.
Some of them have tried. You know, they've thought we've got halos, it's fine, but they've really gone for it like that. I was just going to say actually, Paul, earlier on in the day when we had the GT races, this is in no disrespect to any of the GT races, sometimes you'd see a car at the front of the pack and you'd think, you know what, I'm just going to write that down because it's pretty certain they're going to make it through here. I don't dare start writing this down because these 3 are all going to be in different positions. The 4 cars in the background are going to be in different positions as well. Hong Kong, China, Colombia, Croatia and Turkey, they're all going to change around before the end of this race. 3 minutes left on the clock here at Spa-Francorchamps and somehow at the same time at Valencia, and we have just 2 laps left to go here in this 3rd and final quarter-final here on iRacing.
Yep, there's one thing that's certain about this race is that absolutely nothing is certain about this race, apart from the fact that we've got a few DNFs. 13 cars left in it, so India, who had all the problems in the world at the start of the race, they're not a million miles away from that top 10. Stay in it. You said it right from the beginning. We had the accident. Stay in it. You've got to be in it to win it, and I think that's the big thing. There we go. Big cheer. Remember the cheer that we said? You're on the cheer cam. Go, go, go.
Fantastic stuff. Whoa, on the grass there to the left-hand side. Was that the Czech Republic? Yeah, they're taking to the grass. They were thinking, yeah, you know what, we're going to go for this. I don't think they know there's 1 lap left after this. He's gone for it early doors here around the outside into Les Combes. Before they get to Malmedy, he's already got the lead of the race. Republic of Korea hold on to 2nd position, and now Hungary are the car in 3rd. But you know what? I think that's where I'd like to be right now if I was in 3rd position, because you can sit behind the cars ahead, watch them battle over the final lap, up the run towards Blanchimont, send it.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly on that one, although I would be a little bit reluctant to think about doing anything in the sending variety.
That's because you're a good driver and I'm not.
No, I'm not a good driver. I wouldn't be in 3rd. I've been watching these guys as they lap me.
Remember my new catchphrase, I'm not brave, I'm just stupid.
Yeah, exactly. But look at this one. Czech Republic, I've got about a half a second lead over the chasing pack. Again, that one is going to go away very quickly, but it suggests we've gone from playtime to serious time now, doesn't it? Now we're starting to think about ramping it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is going to be very interesting because there's no need to do anything. But again, let's cycle back to what we talked about many a time, the mental game. You're going to want to beat your rival because next time you race them, it's for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Playtime is over. They've rung the school bell and now they're all trying to bring them in, but it's like trying to herd fog at the moment. So you've got Croatia now up into 4th position, by the way. They're ahead of Hong Kong, China, so they've been reeled into that battle pack and that has switched around. But importantly, they're all getting away. These top 3 are getting further and further away from the rest of them. Hungary now back up into 2nd position. Again, not the most exciting thing in the world because we know that counts for nothing with 1 entire lap of Spa-Francorchamps left to go. On to the final lap we go then here at the FIA Motorsport Games in the quarterfinals. Barney the flagman, the famous flagman on iRacing, waving the white flag on the start-finish line. It's the Czech Republic from Hungary, Republic of Korea, then Croatia, Hong Kong, China, Turkey, Colombia, Namibia, Barbados and Armenia inside your top 10. Looking a little bit safe for Armenia as well, actually, because they've got a good gap back to Luxembourg, but we've got 1 lap to go in the quarterfinals now, Paul.
Yeah, it's been a slow-burning race, this one, but I do think these top 3 now are going to start ramping things up a little bit over these last 7 kilometres of the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most famous and dramatic and exciting racetracks in the whole wide world, real or virtual. And it's certainly put on a show for us this afternoon as we run down the Kemmel Straight for the final time under racing conditions. A little look to the inside for the Hungarian car. He'll get the one done on the brakes. No problem, no drama. New race leader. How long for? We'll find out. Republic of Korea thinking, not sure if I like being in 3rd position. Might start getting on my tippy toes. See what I can do about the lead.
Absolutely, and now Hungary are going to be watching their mirrors, just trying to pick out what the body language is of that Czech Republic car in second place. Are they going defensive against Republic of Korea, or are they going to start to mount an attack? Because the worst thing now, to be that middle car, is on that run up to Blanchimont. You want to attack the car in front of you, but it's like being on the M6 and being stuck behind a lorry back in the UK, which happens too much. Is that car behind you could be the one to then try and move forward as well. You've got to keep your eye on the mirrors, run down to the Fania chicane. It could all change even here.
Yeah, a little mistake there from Hungary, actually, which really sort of minimised their forward momentum. Not quite an opportunity for the Czech Republic, but it just goes to show now we're no longer cruise mode. This is a little bit more pushing, a little bit more dramatic. They're not going to be full beans. Any one of these three drivers could win, but all three will progress if things stay as they are. That's got to be in the back of the mind, even if you desperately would like that win.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't risk losing it all now. You're right at the forefront of this. You have spearheaded this race over 4 seconds to the cars behind. Do you risk it taking the win and having the glory, or do you just sit back and qualify and have that as enough? Down the inside goes Czech Republic. Hong Kong, China are way out of this, but we've got Republic of Korea in second position. Now 3 wide into the bus stop. They're trying it round the outside. 1 more corner to go. They've really sent it. They're 3 wide again. Is there the room? Look at that move down the inside. That is absolutely outstanding from Hungary. You do not do it better than that, Paul.
Yes, that was absolutely beautiful. The cheer as well behind the wheel says it all. That meant an absolute load. We suggested during the race, nothing matters apart from the final corner, and I think that just goes perfectly to show Hungary getting the job done, giving no room for response. That was beautiful.
Close stuff at the Esport. That was quite impressive.
Yeah, amazing.
Lots of nations to look out for there. Very close numbers between all these nations, and I think whoever sat in a simulator before knows this is not easy.
No.
It looks a lot easier than it is.
Add in Spa-Francorchamps was one of the trickiest circuits in the world, but kudos to Hungary. That was amazing. And thanks very much to our commentators on that, which is Chaz Draycott and Paul Jeffrey. You can follow all the esports action all weekend as we build up towards the gold medals in Esports F4 and GT.
And we are now stood in a little bit of a different corner. We're now not at the esports, we're at the track, and behind us are the rally cars.
Yes, so this is the kind of, rallying is a very exciting off-road sport, but there's also a lot of admin. So as you can see, there's like 1 million signs here, in control. They regroup at Parc Fermé. The other side of that Parc Fermé area where the rally cars are, we're going to see some rally action soon, is the drifting track. And we just wanted to highlight one particular moment that we clocked a little bit earlier. You can still hear that they're still competing. And this is representing El Salvador. It's Nasser Arbali Urias in the Nissan 240 SX, and just demonstrating what a beautiful dance it is, controlling a drifting car. So that's very different from the control they have in the Esports F4.
Yes, for sure. One thing I find very funny about the rally stages is that we've got so many contenders here who are below 18, who don't have a driver's license. And with rally, when you drive from stage to stage, you need a driver's license, right? So they couldn't even be rally drivers. So that is exciting to know what spectrum we have of drivers.
The key thing about rallying is that the cars have to be road legal.
Yes.
The driver and usually the co-driver, so it has 2 people in the car, and it has to be road legal, or they have to have a driving license. So anyone under the age of 16, 17 can only rally. And I think Estonia is a good place where people rally. They go there to do their rallying, like the rallying equivalent of F4.
You've clearly got the ins and outs of this. I know this is one of your favourites.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I think you're an expert on that.
Well, yeah, it's in my blood, really.
Yeah.
But because we are covering everything, I'm not really the expert on rallying this weekend. But I know a man who is. So if you excuse me a moment, I'm just going to take you over here to have a word with Ben Constanduros. Hello, Ben. Good, thank you. You too. So you're kind of overseeing all things rally this weekend. Even for someone like me, who knows a fair bit about rally, we've got Rally2, Rally4, we've got tarmac and gravel and historic rallies. How does it all work?
Yeah, so today we've had 6 gravel rally stages. Actually, only 2 routes shared 3 times. Meaning this afternoon has been quite rough for the guys because they've been going over the same route of 14 kilometers 3 different times. The 3 different classes: 2 4-wheel drive, 1600 turbos, Rally2 is our front-wheel drive, almost like a junior category, junior WRC run to those regulations, for instance. And then the historic is actually broken into different classes, but for us, we just see a lovely group of collection of historic rally cars. Today they race gravel, tomorrow they race tarmac. You can enter each individual day, or you can enter the whole thing and compete for the overall medal stage, which happens here on Sunday, which is a whole different beast, because that's kind of a weird rallycross rally hybrid where 3 cars go off at once.
And just, you know, nerding out a little bit, if you're doing both tarmac and gravel, how much time have you got to do things like adjust tyres, adjust ride height?
Yeah, so today it's all been gravel. Tonight it's going to be great fun because they've got about 3 hours to change the cars into tarmac spec. It's exactly what we used to see in WRC Catalunya, so it's a nice kind of play of local Spanish to Spanish thing. But to do that, it means taking all the suspension, all of the diffs. Sometimes the gearboxes are attached to the diffs, so there's a huge amount of exchange from gravel to tarmac that needs to be done for those who have chosen to do that. As a country, you can also have 2 different crews doing it and represent your country. So Portugal, for instance, of doing that. I think they've got 1 car for gravel, 1 car for tarmac, but they can still overall compete.
That makes absolute sense. Now, go and transfer all that knowledge and sit alongside David Addison up in the commentary booth, because we'll be listening to you very shortly.
Some medals to give out this evening.
Brilliant. Our first medals of the weekend. Thank you, Ben. And over here, Kayana has an absolute... Oh, mind your backs. Health and safety first. An absolute legend of motorsport. Emanuele Pirro is with Kayana.
Yes, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you can explain...
Be called an absolute good friend rather than legend, but that's fine.
Okay, we'll call you an absolute good friend. That works. Maybe you can explain to us what your role is here at the Motorsport Games as an absolute good friend.
Here I am in a single-seater committee as a chairman or president. So we do have, of course, a Formula 4 race, which is important. And I just wanted to come and learn, see, check not so much because I think they do a good job, but and also give a sign of presence from FIA to the drivers. The concept is new. I think needs to be supported. It's a super cool concept, you know, to be representing your country. I remember, which is not happening in motorsport nowadays.
Oh, that's true.
But in my karting days, you were racing for your national team. So as a kid in karting in the European and World Championship, I was wearing the Italian jersey, and I felt super cool, you know, like a football player somehow. So this is a nice concept, and I'm here to support. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is it quite impressive for you with all the categories as well? Is this a bit out of your depth because you've got so much different racing going on?
Yes, it is, and shame on me, but this is my first motorsport games. There was one in Rome, the first edition, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go. So of course I heard and read and knew a lot about it, but to watch from real is something different. And I have been thinking, how can this event develop, and how can this event will be placed in the future of motorsport? And I told myself, today is Friday afternoon. Yeah. I arrived yesterday, and I told myself not to draw conclusion before Sunday night. So from yesterday to Sunday night, I will be learning, watching, and everything, and then probably I will have an answer to my question.
Fantastic. Well, we're very glad that you're here with us. We're going to have a look in the booth because it's time for some rallying, and that is a very exciting thing. If you haven't learned about it yet, now is a great time to stay with us and learn about rallying.
The first car then onto the stage is going to be Mexico. So Alejandro Mauro Sanchez works his way now around turn 14 of the permanent circuit, gets himself to the final time control, if you like. The marshals await, and he has had a decent day with thirds and seconds across the bulk of stages. Not a stage win. In fact, the dominant driver today has been Spain's Alejandro Cachon, who has been victorious across every stage. But in a moment, we are going to have the Team Mexico entry released. We look down from the drone. David Addison and Ben Constanduris are trackside and looking forward to something rather different compared to the circuit racing activities. This illustrates just how much of the permanent circuit can be used here. Yesterday we had people recceing it. We had people doing a track walk. The marshals, the track staff have been busy putting in the different markers to make sure that drivers know which direction they're meant to be going, which route is for them. And so the car's just being held over on the exit of turn 13, but very shortly will be in business. And there you can see the first car away, and it is for Team United Kingdom. It is Oliver Mellers at the wheel, and having talked about the cars being set up for gravel, you can see how much lean there is on the tarmac. Now, Ben Constanduris has been out and about like a true rally fan all day, map in hand, bobble hat on, and it's been a busy day for the teams, Ben.
Absolutely, lots of work for these guys to do. This poor Proton has been bashed about a bit this afternoon.
Okay.
It left the paddock and instantly the prop shaft partly detached itself. Not fully, so it still does have four-wheel drive, but it has a horrible rattle, which has then managed to rattle the drive shaft cover, I think it was, and all the fluid has leaked out of the rear left drive shaft as well. As you can also see, it's pretty battered because the stages are quite a kind of grease turkey-like in their stoniness and roughness. And so there are parts that are kind of Finland and nice and wide and slidey, but there are a lot, and there's hardly any air in that rear left tyre. He's got another one in the boot that's already got a puncture, and in fact you can see that rear left is now wobbling around, possibly more than it was supposed to be. So Mellers is just kind of getting to the end of the day. He's still in competition to get a medal in the overall. He just needs to be really strong on tarmac tomorrow. And it's difficult to really know because gravel and tarmac are so different, and lots of work for these guys to do to get their cars set up correctly.
But he's not driving like somebody who's just getting to the end of the day. There's still a lot of commitment in this. The car may not be all that willing, but he's still having a red-hot go.
Remarkably, inside that car, it looks like they've done the Dakar. There's been so much dust getting inside all the seals because there have been parts that have been very sandy and dusty. But good to see them get to the end. It has been a very horrible afternoon for them. They've been first on the road in the morning, which meant they were sweeping all of that sand away from the hard base layer, so very little grip. Looking forward to an afternoon where the roads have been swept because there was only 2 stages that they actually took part on.
Yeah.
And then they've had this rear wheel doing that. Look at it. I'm surprised it hasn't buckled under.
Yes, I was thinking the same.
If it was a 70s touring car, it would have done, wouldn't it?
He's given up the Cambrian Rally in the UK to come and do this as Oliver Mellers to represent Team UK. It's the last round of the British Rally Championship this weekend, and Oliver Mellers has been a regular in that. He's got his brother leading the historic division as well with his Toyota that we'll come to in a moment. But from the perimeter roads back onto the permanent circuit, and now the long drag up the pit straight.
So yeah, we're going to use at least use the finishing line of the main circuit, even if we're going backwards of that circuit. Nice little chicane to get through, and that will stop our timing beam. It starts because every car starts on a minute, so we know when they start, although unfortunately that hasn't stopped the clock by the looks of things.
2:59.920. It has on that screen, not on your screen. But Alejandro Mauro Sanchez, then, I was saying a little bit earlier on, has been top 3 for much of the day, taking individual stages into account. Not as dominant as Alejandro Cacaron, but we'll come to him in due course. Here, Alejandro Mauro needs to find some time, doesn't he? Because we're not just looking at individual stages. This is the last stage of day 1 of the event. So here's an opportunity to try to close that gap overall.
Yeah, but he's not actually taking part in Rally2 gravel, which ends this evening. So he doesn't have to worry too much about where he finishes the day. He did lose a minute earlier on today with a puncture. He didn't change the tyre, therefore just got to the end of the stage with a slightly, well, not slightly ruined, it was completely ruined, the tyre, and did a bit of damage to the bodywork as well. But Mauro Sanchez, really one of the favourites for Rally2 across the board, and has managed in the last couple of stages to get himself back ahead of Oliver Mellers after losing that 1 minute with the puncture, but also partly because Ollie's car's been also horrible, as we found out. It has been a brutal day. Tomorrow on tarmac, it's lovely. The Spanish roads, as you would expect, nice and smooth, but they did find some amazing gravel stages. For the first time, of course, in the Motorsport Games, to have gravel, and it's been quite spectacular out in the hills.
And we're not talking Mickey Mouse stages, are we? I mean, stage 6, the most recent one, it's a 10-minute stage. So there's a lot of mileage in there. These are good roads.
Yeah, 14 kilometres each of them, actually. I don't know how they've managed to do that. But that last one, the second one, is, they've been saying 3 passes of the second one was about the limit. They would need to have transferred to Dakar vehicles for a 4th pass.
Right, now, this is Mauro Sanchez to see if he can go quicker than Mellors, and the answer should be yes, he does. So Mauro Sanchez does a 2:51.6, so he's over 8 seconds faster than Oliver Mellors. As we turn our attention next to the Qatari entry, which is Abdulaziz Al-Khouari. And it is now raining, so this throws another curveball at them, and those that have got through in the dry now have a completely different track surface and a much quicker time. It doesn't look like it's wet all the way around, though.
Doesn't look like it's raining where we are.
No, exactly.
But on the other side of the circuit, definitely raining for sure. Interestingly, on gravel days, you want to start lower down the order so that people have swept the gravel and the soft gravel away from the grippier, hard stone underneath. So those most competitive are coming later on in our running order, and therefore the track could be getting wetter and wetter. The gaps between our cars, not huge, but probably unlikely to change on a short 4 kilometre stage that we have here.
So right now it is Alejandro Mauro Sanchez, 2:51.6 the best time. There is the Team Mexico car going through that final time control with the officials. Wipers on, but not looking as though they need to be on at the moment. I did see Sanchez have a wiper flick. I just assumed he knocked those on in all the busyness inside the car. But now the road here looks dry, doesn't it?
You do see, though, especially in this Qatari car, that there is not much grip given on a gravel setup, on gravel tyres, on this very smooth and slick circuit, Ricardo Tormo. The car's not biting at all, it's just sliding across the surface.
It's great to watch, but it must be hell inside the car, mustn't it? Because it's just not doing what you want. And Abdulaziz Al-Khouari, he's no slouch, but these are rather different roads from those that perhaps he is used to in domestic rally competition, as he now with the Skoda accelerates up towards the chicane and then towards the flying finish. Double Qatari champion. He's been a WRC2 event winner in the past as well. So, you know, here's somebody that knows exactly what they're doing.
And a shame, he's just going to miss out on a podium in the Rally2 gravel. If no problems occur with the top 3, then that will be 4th position in Rally2 gravel. We won't see him tomorrow on tarmac.
Interestingly, though, he was still quicker than Mellors, even though he had a wet road in parts to contend with. Still better than a battered and prop shaft affected and punctured tired Proton of Mellors. Now, this is Bjorn Sartorius for Team Germany, who's been a regular at Motorsport Games because we saw him a couple of years ago. And Sartorius, who has been in the German Rally 2 and Rally 4 competitions this year, as well as the Mitropa FIA Championship. Normally a man to watch.
And a classic body language of the Ford Fiesta WRC and WRC2 cars. Very soft. You have to have these cars in gravel spec. Much softer than perhaps the Skoda appears to be. That's why you get this huge amount of dive that the nose. Look how far the suspension is. It compresses when he gets back on the brakes. But that's how these Fiestas operate at their best. And you see that across the board. But it does look particularly lurid when you're on a situation like this. Different, interestingly, to qualifying. Because qualifying, which set the order in which they ran today, that was done with the regulation allowing you to change your springs and setup. So some teams actually had a completely different suspension setup for qualifying 4 kilometres yesterday that they then rechanged back into gravel setup for today. So the times that they set yesterday are not necessarily comparable to what they've done today, even though it's the same layout.
So this is Bjorn Sartorius, who's aiming for a 2:51, but he's not really been in the top 3 all day, has he? So he's been there or thereabouts, to use that dreadful phrase, as he threads his way through the gap, tail wags a little bit, and now gets back onto the loud pedal heading up towards the chicane. But I think that brief bit of rain has passed. It doesn't look as though wipers are needed anymore, and Sartorius then comes now to the chicane, has to stand on the brakes, thread delicately through the tyre stacks up towards the line. Anything in the low 250s, he's pretty decent at the minute, and he will break the beam at... We await, a 2:58 is the time for Bjorn Sartorius. So he goes second on the stage, and he's ahead of Al-Khouari by 0.264 of a second. So Alejandro Mauro Sanchez has just gone storming away in terms of a time up front. Everybody else now arguing over second.
Lithuania have been absolutely one of the surprises, perhaps, of today's running on the gravel because Rokas has actually been in the top 3 almost every single classification of Rally2 gravel, and he won't be running in tarmac tomorrow, but he is on course for picking up a bronze medal, and he's only 17 seconds off Ali Turkan for silver in Rally2 gravel. Remember, we are giving medals at the end of this stage to the top 3 who have entered only in Rally2 gravel. So Rokas, he is 17 seconds back from Ali Turkan. I don't see that particularly changing unless Ali gets himself stuck in a gravel trap. But this could be a medal finishing performance.
Could indeed, couldn't it? So, although you've got Rokas Stepanovic with lots and lots of arm twirling inside the car and hunting for traction, that will have cost him time. It looked good, but that's going to go against him. The Team Lithuania car then now threads its way across the runoff area in conventional terms, back behind the wall, and then he's got this very narrow gap to thread through at the other end. This is the one part of the day where we don't have to worry about track limits here.
Yeah, absolutely. Although there are obviously areas where you can't cut, and there was talk yesterday in the paddock about an area of the circuit, not entirely sure where people were taking more and more liberties, to a point where a Rally 4 car hit a tyre stack and rolled twice on shakedown. Well done to the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
They are going to be competing tomorrow in Rally 2 tarmac, but with a rather scraped paint job.
And slowing right down as though he's thinking he's taken the finish.
Yeah, he has.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong tyre stack, wasn't I?
Yeah, there are 2 on the main strike. Yeah.
So Stepanovicius takes the beam, goes second, in fairness, 2:54.6, so that's all right. Now, this is the man he's up against, isn't it? This is Team Turkey's Ali Turkan, Red Bull athlete, and another experienced and very competitive driver, and another of these nose happy Fiestas.
Medalist in Rally 4 back in 2022. In the front-wheel drive only car. He's really been in a Rally 3 ever since, which is a four-wheel drive car, but with less power than this Rally 2 version. And he's actually leading the Turkish Championship in that car against people in Rally 2 cars. So doing a really, really good job, but doesn't have the experience of Rally 2 as such. So hasn't been quite on the pace of the Spaniards who have dominated today, but has been comfortably sitting in that second position. Has a punctured tyre in the boot of that car that he got at the end of the first stage of the loop. But otherwise, the car looks really clean. He's obviously driven it well, and sadly not able to fight against Spain in both categories today. But he is on course for a silver in Rally 2, and he sits second in Rally 2 overall.
But he has been a regular in the top 3 throughout the day, even if the pace hasn't been there. So he's maybe not got the ultimate pace, but it's been a good, solid day, despite that puncture, as you say. So Ali Turkan now up towards the first task stat, the chicane, and then he's up towards the timing beam, and still a 2:51 is the best, but at the moment 2:51 plays 2:54, and into the chicane he comes. So Ali Turkan is going to put himself where in all of this? The answer as he gets to the timing beam will reveal itself in a moment, because Ali Turkan is about to stop the clock. We in turn look at Team Spain. Turkan goes second, 2:53, so 1.8 seconds down on Sanchez, but this has been the dominant man of the day.
Well, both Spanish cars have alternated in stage victories. Cajon and Suarez. Suarez is only doing gravel, so he won't be with us tomorrow, but Cajon will be. And so, in theory, you'd say, well, Suarez should be the one that is the more dominant. And they are both leading their respective categories. But in overall time, in the afternoon, Suarez has lost time consistently to Cajon, whereby in the morning it was stage wins to Suarez, but by only a second or 2, whereas Cajon's taken big chunks. So that bodes well for Spain tomorrow as well, because that Toyota Yaris will become a tarmac spec car tomorrow. Everything stiffens up, lowers down, looks more aggressive. 3 hours work for the Teo Martin Motorsport crew to do after this stage. And for the moment, it does look as though he's on course to hold firm at the head of the field by over a minute and a half by the end of this stage. It's Suarez who will be picking up that Spanish medal if he can complete this stage.
Now, rallying is big in Spain, motorbike racing and rallying, 2 really popular branches of motorsport. How much local knowledge is there for the Team Spain drivers on these roads?
Well, there is a local rally based out of this circuit, and it does use some of the tarmac stages, but the gravel stages are pretty much new to everybody. And to be honest, they had so many different types of gravel and different types of road. It was a really epic kind of stage that they've managed to put together, because you've got some bits, as I said, that look like Turkey and Greece, and others that look like Finland, nice and wide. Some really red, sort of earthy, sticky, clayey stuff. A really good mix, but Spain definitely looking very, very strong.
Right, the timing beam goes Cajon, and that should put him up to the top. He does 2:49. That's the best time of the stage. Another stage win for him then, continuing this somewhat dominant day overall, if you ignore gravel for a moment. But the other Spanish entry is now the one that takes up attention.
Yeah, so I've seen Suarez in the European Rally Championship, mainly on tarmac, to be honest. The Madeira Championship. They have their own sort of subset of the Spanish Super Series, and he's absolutely dominant there. So interesting that he's chosen to focus on the gravel element, but he's obviously multifaceted, and there hasn't been a direct competition between him and his teammate in Spain, because they are on different classifications. But I certainly have been looking at it, and I'm sure they have. The sunglasses, the cool sunglasses, were out at the regroup for Jose Antonio Suarez, even though it is dark as dark can be.
Yes, but he is a double Spanish gravel champion, so he knows exactly what he's doing on that type of terrain, and he's making the tyres work on this tarmac surface. Very nearly in the gravel, knocks the cone over as he goes. What was I saying about track limits? Right now, pushing on, Jose Suarez, 3 times the Spanish Rally Super Championship winner, and making the car absolutely dance, coming up through turn 2 on the racetrack.
What's remarkable about both Spanish crews is they've not used any spare tyres. I always have a quick look in the boot, and in these cars you can easily see where the 2 spare tyres are sitting, and they are fresh as can be. Everyone else has been scrabbling around with tyres. The tyres didn't look particularly well used, and the ones in the boot hadn't been used at all. So it's been a very controlled day by Suarez, and now he's able just to finish off those Pirellis.
Here he comes then, up towards the chicane, and this could be a stage win overall, and the one tarmac stage of the gravel rally. Up towards the timing beam comes Jose Suarez then, and up towards the beam, goes through. And disappointingly, only 4th fastest then. So in terms of an overall time, not great. Should be enough to give him a medal, though, within the gravel rally. And look at this for commitment. Loads of understeer. The car pushing out wide. Curb, clips the gravel. But hey, that's fine, because it's not a tree, it's not a rock, it's not a bush, it's not a ditch. Gets away with it. And then, that's not really a marshal. Clip the bollard, knock that out of the way. So Suarez taking the liberties on the racetrack here that you just would not do on a gravel stage.
No, but if it's a bush, you would. You just aim for the bush. You see so much of these cars battered and bruised. So that's gold then to Spain in Rally2 gravel. Turkey gets silver, and Lithuania get bronze. In Rally2, now we switch our focus, our attention, and also the way to drive a Rally4 car, because it's front-wheel drive. And these cars are actually very tricky to drive, because you make sure that the rear tyres really don't do much at all, and they float around like your old Renault Clios or TCR cars, for instance.
And it's all about momentum, isn't it? Because they're relatively underpowered, so you've got to try and drag everything out of them. The first car that we're looking at is that from Slovakia, so Martin Koci and Petr Teškinský. Koci has had a couple of overall stage wins during the course of the day, so the car, to my eye, looks relatively undamaged. Ben's about to tell me its woes of the day.
No, he's had a pretty good day, apart from using a lot of tyres. The rear tyres on that car are balls. They have no grip whatsoever. And he was the same at the end of his first loop on the 3rd stage of the morning loop. He had no rear tyres, so he's been working really hard. But there we go. Jose Sanchez has taken a medal for Spain, and that's great celebrations. I'm sure that they will have many, many more to come, not least in rallying.
Absolutely right. As I say, it's a popular discipline over here. And here, coming up then towards timing, is then the Slovakian entry. So through the chicane, Martin Kochi. Times, of course, are going to be much different from what we were looking at in terms of Rally 2. But that's not to say that the drivers aren't trying very, very hard indeed. So Martin Kochi's time resets us, really, because that's now going to be the benchmark in Rally 4. 3 minutes 6. So, yeah, you're looking at times over 17 seconds down on a Rally 2 time. But that now is the time to aim for in Rally 4. Martin Kochi then 3 minutes 6 seconds being our first Rally 4 time. And now we turn to Team Germany, which again has got cars just as in Rally 2. You can do tarmac and gravel, or just tarmac, or just gravel. So that's why, unlike other disciplines here, there are 2 entries for a given nation.
Or 3.
Yes, sorry, true.
You don't have to actually enter overall if you do the other 2, just to add complications to the mix. Or you can now enter overall and do all 3 days, but not enter the individual days competition, which is happening quite a lot, especially in historics. So Kochi's main rival is Sergi Perez from Spain. Sergi Perez runs 3rd or 4th on the road, and I think he's had a little bit of an advantage by being further back in that running order. He was slow in qualifying, and he was purposefully slow in qualifying so that he didn't end up with a time too fast.
So the Team Germany car that we are looking at is Tom Kesser, who hasn't really sparkled, in fairness, overall in Rally 4, but that's not to say that he's not worth watching, because he's another driver that's done a lot of rallying in the last few years. And he's a German 2-wheel drive champion this year. He's won the DMSB Rally Cup back in 2021. So he is a CV'd driver.
A lot of these Rally 4 drivers, of course, it being a relatively young formula, have huge amounts of experience, but only in their own country. So this is the first time he's ever competed outside of Germany, and probably, therefore, his first time on gravel. Because I think mainly the German championship is a tarmac-based championship. So he will be looking forward to tomorrow to being a bit stronger.
And has gone quicker than Kochi, so only by 99 thousandths of a second, but he's put one over Martin Kochi, who has been a stage winner today. So that's a pretty good end to the day for Tom Kesser. Maybe it's feeling more comfortable on a tarmac surface, but even so, it's a stage win, or potentially a stage win, given good pace already.
And because we're halfway through and we've got tarmac tomorrow, everything completely changes tomorrow. And someone like Tom, I think, will be a lot higher up on the order, and he'll start crawling back all the time he's lost from the gravel day. Yeah. This, however, though, looks like medal number 2 in quick succession for Spain. He needs to lose 20 seconds to Martin Kochi if he's going to lose that gold medal in Rally 4 gravel. He is a man that we will see also in Rally 4 overall, so he will be doing tarmac tomorrow as well, but he is registered to do a medal in tarmac, a medal in gravel, and a medal overall.
He being Sergi Perez here, so this is the next medal in the offing for Team Spain. Pretty good start to the games, isn't it, with medals racked up on the Friday evening, at the very start of the weekend. So lights on, lights starting to fade. Sergi Perez, as you rightly pointed out earlier, completely different look to how they're being driven and feel to how they're being driven. You know, lots more understeer evident, less tail wagging with less power.
Yeah, and with gravel tyres as well that are made to be soft to roll. I don't think it's a particularly pleasurable feeling, especially front-wheel drive. I know that four-wheel drive guys like it because they can throw them around and really slide, even though it's not fast. With this, it's just wait for the front wheels to actually give you some grip and positivity.
And what are we talking about in terms of engines for the bulk of the Rally 4 brigade?
Quite a different selection of engines, but effectively they have to have their balance, so they have 5 kilograms per horsepower, and depending on what your engine produces depends on the weight of the car. But in this, it's all Peugeots. We've only got a couple of Opels tomorrow on tarmac, but the whole field has been Peugeot 208s.
So that time offered up by Perez was the fastest, and 3 minutes 5.418, 1.2 seconds quicker than the opposition. As next we turn attention to India. Pragathi Gowda, the Indian lady, is next, and somebody else with titles to her name, having been the Indian National Junior Champion, Indian Gymkhana Champion. And again, it just illustrates the global nature of the motorsport games, doesn't it? You know, you've got what you might call conventional rallying nations. Rallying is popular in India, but it's quite a commitment to come and do the games from that part of the world.
Well, she's also competing in the French Gravel Championship this year, which isn't the more popular of the two, because tarmac gravel tarmac is the one for the French guys. She's had a bit of an adventure. She rolled her recce car on Wednesday before she got to stage 1. So the team had to drive a second car out to her so that she could complete the recce with her Brazilian co-driver. And then today in this afternoon's stages, damaged the radiator and spent 10 minutes repairing that. So was on course actually to be 3rd or 4th, but unfortunately lost 10 minutes in the middle of this afternoon, and therefore trails somewhat in Rally 4 gravel. But she's overall registered as well, so we will see her tomorrow, and car should look a bit prettier tomorrow.
But she's a rapid driver, is Bragati Gauda, so it's a shame, as you say, that she had that drama with the radiator and lost time. Brazil is currently being chased by the drone as the Brazilian entry of Luis Stedili comes through. Now, Stedili has spent most of his day, in terms of the overall part of the event, being 3rd.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And the same for Rally 4 gravel as well. So he's on course for a medal for Brazil. And the challenger was really from Team India, but that faded obviously this afternoon. So he's been left in the middle ground, not as close to the pace of Perez and Kochi, but good enough for a medal in 3rd position.
Yes, with Gauda cheesed off that she wasn't able to take the bronze, therefore. So there is Luis Stedili heading towards the end of the stage. And thread now round the back of turn 2 and then off the racetrack down towards turn 1, round the perimeter of that, back onto the circuit on the pit straight, and then up towards the chicane. Still to come, we've got the historic cars, which I think are most fans' favourites because of the noises and the memories they stir, but we'll come to those in due course. Rally 4 has been another popular initiative, though, hasn't it? A relatively cheap way of getting involved in international rallying.
And these cars, if I put my FIA hat on for a second, are now lined up to be TC Light cars.
Yes.
So they can be put effectively a tarmac package as you would use on a tarmac rally, and you can now use them in tarmac championships. I think the French are already lining that up for next year. So quite useful that the engine, the chassis is multifaceted, so it could be a circuit racer or a rally car.
And the nice thing about Rally 4 is that the manufacturers are getting involved. You know, there is the Stellantis Cup, for example, where big manufacturers are taking young drivers, trying to promote them and exploiting the benefits of rallying once again. So I know that the top level of WRC is very, very expensive, and yeah, it is manufacturer dominated, but manufacturers are looking at the platforms beneath. So Stedili up towards, very, very wide, I was going to say, up against the barriers there, because he got oh so close to the tyres, but he survives that, but time lost.
On the handbrake, that's what we like to see.
Well, glad they have a handbrake, because most modern cars now have a button or a switch, don't they?
It's true. I reckon if you bought a Peugeot 208 off the shelf, it would probably have a button, right?
Yeah.
But for rallying, you need to have a bar. You need to have
absolutely,
to grab, especially a front-wheel drive thing that you can't do anything with the rear wheels. You're on the bar quite a lot to get it to turn.
Up to the line, up to the flying finish, then goes Luis Stedili, as we look next at the Chinese Taipei entry of Hushan Li, the man behind the wheel.
I've seen them doing lots of selfies today.
Right.
They have been clearly loving their experience. Look how beautiful the car is. It hasn't been scratched, it hasn't been dented, it hasn't been damaged at all. And so at the end of each stage that I've seen them, they park up and they take a photo of themselves, because I think this is only his 6th ever rally. So the amount of stages he's accruing is percentage by percentage quite big every time he finishes.
Yeah, and this will have therefore been a massively useful learning experiment for him, won't it? So great experience all round, but yeah, he'll go back buzzing after stages like this, as the Peugeot then comes towards the tarmac once more, wriggles its way back on track, and Hushan Li has not been fighting for stage wins, but has been getting steadily quicker over the course of the day as the confidence kicks in.
He inherited another position this evening with Portugal's Rally 4 car crashing out on the last stage of the day. By keeping it clean, by getting through the stages, he is moving up through the order, and the fields, the entries are such that if he keeps doing that tomorrow, he could find himself in a medal position.
Now the historic cars are also on stage. There is the Audi Quattro in the hands of Andrea Zivian. He was the gold medal winner in historic rallying at the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games. And this, for many people, is the epitome of rallying still.
Just won San Remo last weekend and literally brought the car directly from there to here. So it's sort of half got a tarmac setup still on it.
Right.
And so he hasn't had the funnest day on gravel because he just says it's really hard to drive, to a degree that he also hit a rock on the left rear corner and bent the tracking arm of that rear left corner and got a puncture, and spent the whole morning with a car that was crabbing. They managed to fix that at lunchtime. It looks wonderful, but he just hasn't quite had the pace to be as dominant as we saw him last year. So I'm excited to see what he can do on tarmac tomorrow, where I think that would be his preferred surface.
Yeah, Ben Mellors has been the man to beat across the day in his Toyota in the historic division, but Andrea Zivian, or Zippo as he prefers to be known, is a great competitor. He's been a regular this year in the European as well as Italian historic championships, 3 times a class champion in the European Historic Rally Championship, and just about, if you've ever seen a car breathe in, that was the time, wasn't it? It just scraped its way between the wall and the tyres, and the Audi Quattro then, the original four-wheel drive Group B rally car that started that revolution all those years ago, 1982 when it first came in, and turned rallying upside down.
Some of these historic cars have got amazing pedigree. I don't know the pedigree of this particular one, but certainly the Celica that is leading by over a minute has Bjorn Voldegaard's name on the side. It has some old stickers as well.
He's outbraked himself, didn't get the corner, and time lost for Andrea Zivian. Gets going, but time lost. It was great to hear the car. It's one of the best rally sounds on Audi Quattro, but I'm afraid, tiny little error, and Andrea Zivian just losing a couple of seconds.
Not convinced that that rear left is completely as it should be.
This is going to be the target time in historics then, as the Audi Quattro then accelerates over the line, and the time that Zivian has done is 3 minutes and 10, so that is the target. Now, this is the Toyota that Ben was talking about, the car of Ben Mellors. It's a sort of tribute car, I think, rather than you would describe it if it was a Goodwood, rather than a genuine Voldegaard car. It is a car of the time, made into a rally car to reflect what was of the period. But Ben Mellors has driven it really well today. It's been a regular in historic events. It's been a regular around Goodwood in the rally stages there. It's a well-used Toyota. And the Mellors, of course, a good rallying family. Dad has been very successful over the years as well. We've seen Ollie Mellors already. So Dad Chris watching on as here. Up comes the Toyota back to tarmac, and Ollie Mellors, then having rather dominated the day, is now trying to get another stage win, and barring a mistake should be able to do it here. He's got a 3 minutes and 10 to beat, but bearing in mind that Zippo with the Quattro, Andrea Zivian, made that mistake, it's advantage Mellors. You can see the side windows absolutely covered with the little scrutineering tickets from Goodwood, but the Toyota pressing on.
Yeah, and Zippo could have cost himself a gold medal with that little mistake, because it is very, very close in historic gravel, rally gravel, between himself and the Ford Escort Cosworth of Team United Kingdom and Ernie Graham. So this car, Ben Mellors, is entered into the whole rally, but is not entered individually into the individual days, and there are other Team UK cars entered into those individual days. And at the moment, we could be getting a medal for Team United Kingdom, but 0.3 of a second, we're going to have to pay great attention to Ernie and his daughter Anna Graham.
The more you try and explain the difference between overall and gravel and tarmac, the more confused I get.
I know, because I'm also not saying them right. It's been a long day.
Fair point. Right, Ben Mellors then, to try to beat the Quattro, heads up towards the line and goes through with the stage time being slower, interestingly, a 3:15 as against a 3:10 from the Audi. So a lot of time lost relatively there. That's a big surprise, that. First stage loss of the day. Right, now no rally would be complete without a Ford Escort Mark II, and the good news is we've got more than one on this event, but Ernie Graham, who is a regular winner in historic events in the UK, he's been a winner in the European Historic Rally Championship as well, the care home owner, comes then with the Escort Mark II with the Union flag atop it, down towards the next corner.
Yeah, so a car that we won't see tomorrow, only entered into historic rally gravel, but could be on course for getting a medal for Team UK, willing it on by the looks of things. I don't know, their head nodding is with the brakes or them going, come on, come on. Zippo is the target. Zippo's time is the target, and just 0.3 of a second coming into this stage was the difference between the two. Incredibly close, because Ernie Graham managed to get a stage win on the last stage just as I was coming up here, and so that passed me by 33 seconds. So it's really, really close. Not many corners to go.
Now, if an Audi Quattro makes a great iconic noise in rallying, so does an Escort Mark II. So let's have a listen to this as he comes down towards the camera. Squeal of tyres on the handbrake, beautifully done. This is a great run, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder whether Zippo had a problem with his handbrake, because we didn't see him do any handbrake turns whatsoever, but these latter cars have been able to rotate nice and quickly. The time really, really important here. One last hairpin to go. Is it gold for Italy or gold for Team UK?
Up to the line comes Ernie Graham, and let's see where he slots in. It is still Italy fastest and stays fastest. Ernie Graham goes second.
By how much? By over 2 seconds. Oh, so Zippo has got the gold. Here he is. He won't know it. Oh, maybe he's looking at the timings. Oh, the timings aren't automated like they have for the rest of the day because of this circuit element, so it's not going to come quite as quickly as you'd like, Zippo. Cameraman, give him a thumbs up. Tell him he's good.
Right, from one type of rally car to something very different indeed. The Volvo 240 Turbo, which has been obviously a prolific clubman's car in Swedish events over the years, and most have been destroyed against trees. The 240 Turbo was a popular touring car in the mid-1980s in the Group A era, but for this weekend, it's a historic rally car as well, and this is for Team Germany.
It baffles me that the choice of these guys to go out and rally this car. It's brothers in that car. Or no, is that another husband and wife?
For Team Germany in the Volvo, it is husband and wife, I think, Siegfried and Renate Meyer.
That's right.
But that does not look like a rally car. That looks
exactly
like a touring car, like a road car. Well, I know they have to be driven on the road, but very standard. The amount of lean in it is there.
He had an ignition problem this morning on stage one and spent 10 minutes parked at a junction fixing it. And ever since, it's been out on circuit and doing well and doing okay. Not on course, unfortunately, for a medal because of its 10-minute delay on stage one. But they have been having lots of fun. There's been lots of smiles from those guys. And as they come to the line, we switch to one of my personal favourites, this Alpine. Very confusing. There's a German Volvo and there's a Swedish Alpine. Why we haven't got a Swedish Volvo and a French Alpine, I don't understand. But here we go.
Isn't this just a great-looking car? Even now, it still makes you look twice.
And he's got light pods on. He's the first one to go on the light pods. You were allowed to do it, but nobody felt the need to. And that gets me extra excited because I love a light pod.
So the Alpine is Kjell and Peter Fransen, dad and lad. So Kjell, who is 70-ish plus, he's the driver. Peter Fransen, his son, on the notes, and the Alpine making its way around the back part of the circuit in the fading light, flicks now to the left to go round the perimeter of the circuit, and the Alpine hard at work. Team UK celebrating, Ernie Graham draped in the flag, having had a good day.
Yeah, that's silver. Sad it's not a gold, but just pipped to the post. A very good effort on that last stage to take 33 seconds out of Zippo, but ultimately a silver for Team United Kingdom.
In the meantime, for Sweden, taking a very wide approach to the tight hairpin, is Kjell Fransen, who will now accelerate back to the tarmac.
And a big gap to anyone around him. So sitting healthily in third position in historic rally. I feel as though this car will be better suited to tarmac tomorrow. I look forward to seeing it. But a lot of work, obviously, to do to get it transferred into tarmac spec for tomorrow. And all those big gaps could completely change again. with Ben Mellors leading Zippo and then Franson in third. We haven't yet seen the bronze medal in historic rally gravel, and that who sits fourth in historic rally. We've lost a few cars though. There was a Swedish Volvo. There was a Swedish Volvo, a 544.
Yes, I thought there was one missing. Yes.
Yeah, and he parked up.
Oh. And the Alpine getting itself through the final tight hairpin. Now, just to explain while we have a moment, because there are only a couple of cars still to come. Day 2 of the overall rally competition is tarmac day. This stage, I'll try this again. The circuit is used again at the end of tomorrow. Is it a carbon copy of this stage, or is it tweaked in any way?
No, completely the same. So this is the same stage from qualifying. Stage 7, stage 14, and then a variation, obviously, for the medal stage where we have 3 cars on track at the same time. There's Zippo. Yes, well done. After nearly breaking the car completely this morning, you are a gold medalist.
The message has got through now as we look at, is that the Opel Ascona of Wojtek Steif?
Yes.
Yes, which makes a great noise, and it's another unusual car. The one thing, of course, it's more common in historic than the other 2 categories is the difference in horsepower as well, because, you know, you've got small engine cars, big engine cars, whereas Rally 2 regs, Rally 4 regulations are designed to have, you know, one standard kind of engine size. In historic, there's a lot more disparity. So maybe some of the reason for the change in order on this last stage has been that there are some cars that can just use all of that horsepower, because like the Audi, big powerful car, Opel Ascona, great on tight and twisty stages, it's going to be a bit breathless here.
Yeah, he had an Opel Kadett, if you remember, in 2022, which was possibly chosen to be a tarmac-only car, whereas this much higher off the ground and much more suited for today. But we haven't seen much from Wojtek. He's going to get bronze, but mainly thanks to the fact that the Volvo 544 that I was talking about retired on, maybe that was the last stage. Again, we had lost 2 Swedish cars on the same stage. And so he has been elevated up into that 3rd position. The only other challenger is the last car on stage, which is Antonio Sainz. And considering he is a bronze medalist from France 2022, the car failed in practice. He was slowest in qualifying and actually hasn't really been much faster all day. But again, maybe he will find much more pleasure on the tarmac roads tomorrow than rattling around this beautiful Porsche on the gravel.
Brother of Carlos Sainz Sr., uncle of Junior, and has gone under the radar a little bit. He's the half of the Sainz family that people don't really know very much about, but I think he's quite happy just being rallying at his level without any great expectation, but is still very, very quick because, again, he's been successful in Spanish and European historic events for a number of seasons.
And he's got a couple of different historic cars, and actually the last time he drove this Porsche was 2 years ago in France for the Motorsport Games. So he's then gone off and used some of his other cars to play with. And so jumping back into this, Porsches, as we all know, are a very unique driving style, and perhaps just hasn't quite got on top of it. But it's been a cruisy day today. He will finish 4th in historic rally gravel and sits 5th overall. But he is 3.5 minutes back from Ben Mellors, so a lot to catch up on tarmac tomorrow.
Well, we know that Porsche 911s make good race cars as well as good rally cars, but the tarmac day should favour the car somewhat more. You can see the high clearance, can't you, that it's had to have for the gravel stages today, but it's got through more than anything.
And let's just have a quick thought for all of the mechanics that are going to be working long into the night tonight, because all of these cars that are partaking tomorrow in tarmac have around 3 hours of work that needs to be done on a modern day rally car to transfer them from gravel to tarmac. Bear in mind it's 7 o'clock local time here. They will not be leaving the circuit until 1 in the morning at the very earliest. Maybe not the same kind of work on a Porsche like this, but it's going to be a long night. And it's relatively early morning. They're leaving the circuit at 8 tomorrow morning, back into the mountains onto some pretty spectacular tarmac roads.
And then back here at the end of tomorrow, and back here on Sunday afternoon as well for the medal table. So up towards the timing line, stage end comes Antonio Sainz, and the Porsche puts itself 19th overall, which in historic terms is going to be fifth, in fact, of the historics overall on that stage.
That's healthier. He's taken some time out of the Volvo and out the Alpine there.
And that comes down to Grunt, I suspect, on the tarmac. So let's have a look then at the overall stage, taking Rally 2, Rally 4 and historic into account. Right then, let's try and unravel this. But the obvious thing is Rally 2 topped the times, and it is a stage win for Spain and medals for Spain as well.
Yep, medals for Spain in Rally 2 gravel, in Rally 4 gravel as well. And Italy gets the historic Rally gravel awards, gold. And of course, then we have to wait for tomorrow evening before we award the tarmac. But we don't award the overall until we do the medal stage on Sunday.
And the 21st time set by the Volvo of Siegfried and Renata Meyer. The 21 cars then that we've had across the rally. So we just shouldn't forget the Volvo, because it's a welcome addition to the ranks this weekend. So for some, the rally continues. For some, the rally is over, but we've got another full day tomorrow.
And more than that, we've got some cars coming in that we haven't seen today who are entered solely into the tarmac spec. So that's really good that we'll have actually a larger entry tomorrow than we had today. We had 28 cars today, and we're going to have 32 tomorrow. And a good half dozen that haven't yet participated.
So the sun sets over the circuit Ricardo Tormo at the end of day one of the FIA Motorsport Games. So let's have a look then at the Rally 2 cars on the stage. It was Ali Turkan for Team Turkey, who, having had a good day, being in the top three for the bulk of it, continued that by being third fastest here. Second quickest, though, was another driver who spent most of his day being within that top three, and that was Alejandro Mauro Sanchez. He was 2.2 seconds away from the top time, though, come the very end of the stage, and the stage winner was for Team Spain, Alejandro Cajon, who has rather dominated Rally 2 over the course of the day. If you take Rally 2 overall, just ignore the gravel section for a moment, he has been unbeatable. Whereas on the gravel element of the rally, Jose Suarez took another stage win, and with it, a gold medal, because the gravel competition ends today. And so for Team España, the first gold medal, and it came through Rally 2. Jose Suarez taking gold. Spectacular, that is for true, as Pragati Gowda for Team India recovered after a damaged radiator to try to salvage a medal. It was not to be, though, and Martin Kocic for Team Slovakia was one of the early drivers to set a time. Touch of understeer, just compromising pace a little as he made his way through into the next chicane. For others, like Tom Kasser for Team Germany, he was looking rapid as well, but it was Sergi Perez for Team Spain that was on target for the stage win and for Rally 4 honours and more medals going their way. So Team Spain has had a good day across the rally competition, with the Sergi Perez Peugeot accelerating up for gold at the end of SS7 of the day, and it was a very happy driver that clambered out of the car. Sergi Perez taking honours, taking gold in the gravel part of Rally 4. Historic rally action came at the end of the day on the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. After battling their way through the gravel stages, the cars then hit tarmac, and Ben Mellors had rather dominated the day in his Toyota, whereas Siegfried Meyer in his rather standard-looking Volvo looked a little leery as he tried to adapt to the fast tarmac circuit. Ernie Graham, though, was looking for a medal in his Ford Escort, but he didn't quite have the pace to beat last year's outright historic rally gold medalist Andrea Zivian, whose Audi Quattro was looking mighty, even though it had struggled a little bit over the course of the day overall to the Ben Mellors Toyota. It was on target to score the gold medal within the historic rally gravel section of the event. And that meant that it was another gold medal for Andrea Zivian, following on from gold at the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games. Gold once more for Team Italy.
What a wonderful first day here in Valencia. It has been a mix of weather.
Yeah.
I think this is a good spot to wrap it up because it looks like the world is ending, but it's not. We had a fantastic day here at the circuit with lots already going on.
Yeah.
Personal highlights?
It was good to see the historic rally cars. It's a little kind of favourite of mine. They were like lightning out there.
No pun intended, there's lightning.
There is lightning, yeah. No, it's been a really good day. You know, already medals awarded. You know, Spain and Italy looking strong. They came with a heavy delegation. And I think they've got both of them. Spain won a home victory. Italy want to retain the title. So that's a great start for them. But yeah, the esports was particularly exciting. You know, that's going to get hotting up over the weekend over in central Valencia as well. It's been really, really good.
I think also what's great about today, we got a good idea of what's happening, but we've got 2 more full days of this, and like GT qualifying and F4 practice are only little teasers of what we're going to have for the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, and you know, the paddock is going to be packed with spectators. The auto slalom and the karting slalom in Electric Street is all the way down there. The drifting is over there. The rally stages are over there, and the Aspar circuit where the cross karts and the karting is happening is over there. So, you know, we've got everything covered. And if you've missed anything on the stream today, you can go back to the YouTube channel and watch all of the individual competitions, replay them, watch them live, and just take a look at the calendar, the schedule for tomorrow, because it is packed all day tomorrow.
Basically, you can go back and rewatch everything we've said today, and then you can come back first thing tomorrow, bright and early, and be with us here at the circuit again and get more race action.
It's a date.
It's a dream.
Hasta mañana.
I think that's a great note to end on. I had a fantastic time with you, Neil.
Me too,
Thanks so
likewise.
much for joining and being here alongside me. And we hope you enjoyed it as well at home. Like Neil said, all the videos and all the content is online, so feel free to watch back. There's been a lot of highlights today already, and we'll be back here bright and early tomorrow.
Oh yeah, let's get out of the rain.